championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Stealing throws it west. He wins the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Well, welcome in, boys. I'm here, James Boyd, joined by the great Christian Oates on the ones and twos because Mark's over there in the co-host chair.
That's right.
So for once, we can't make fun of Mark for missing work. We have to make fun of Kevin. A little R&R for Mr. Bowen.
He's just staycationing it, too. I asked him, like, you doing anything? He's like, not really. Just hanging out. I'm like, all right, well, at least listen then in the morning so we can slander you and you can at least hear it.
Exactly. So he's getting an extra day of rest before we head into Colts training camp next week. But in the meantime, work goes on.
You think Mike Chappell or Rick Venturi would call that soft by Kevin, that he already has to take a day off before camp? Or they say, all right, well, at least get yourself ready for the grind.
Well, I do think that Chap might have some opinions about that. I don't think Chap has missed a day of Colts anything or any type of work since he's started life. But beyond that, I do think that it's probably smart because when it gets out there and it gets rolling, we're pretty much going here on these airwaves until January when it comes to all things football. So I'm looking forward to that and just diving more into, I guess, just new topics. I feel like right now we do have some news-related things. We'll get into it. I saw Adam Vinatieri selected an important Colts person to introduce him to the Hall of Fame. And, we can talk about the Fever All-Star break. Who else is going to be participating in different events? Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston are actually on – I'm sorry, Aaliyah and Caitlin are actually on a different team than Kelsey Mitchell. So a little rivalry there from the Fever Stars. But
do you like that, by the way, the split squads kind of that they do, where you're like, stay in the East, stay in the West?
Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. Just give me East, give me West. I would like, Mark, if they would do like in the NBA back in the day where you just wear your jersey in the All-Star game, the white or the color. I think that's fine, but I also think that everything's a money grab now. So I
always liked when the MLB back in the day, it was like, here's the hats. The guys are wearing their team-specific hats and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, I like that a lot more than, the one-dimensional things now, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. So that's kind of where we are at this morning, but looking forward to, of course, hanging out with you for a couple hours, Mr. Darkton. I'm sorry.
What the hell are you doing? Get your life together.
This guy's ready for the weekend.
I know. I'm sorry. I went to my YouTube stream and did not turn the sound down. My bad.
Come on, James.
We're going to get copyright suits right now. Sorry.
Was that an ad, too? Was that?
I know. We're trying to get free publicity to somebody.
It's the best subscription you'll ever have.
Oh, subscribing to YouTube? Oh, Christian, I'm already carrying all the family subscriptions on my back as it is. Come on now.
That's a good point. I'm not an adult yet, so I'm not paying for other stuff.
See, my family wouldn't know what good TV is if it wasn't for your boy.
When I was your age, Christian, YouTube was free and it will remain free. I'm not paying for ads, for ad-free anything. I don't care how much it ends up costing me. So we'll see. But we should have a fun show today. Set you up for the weekend. Greg Rakestraw, our regular Friday guest, is going to join us. Plus, a colleague of yours, Mike Jones, who from The Athletic, is going to join us. An interesting list about overrated, underrated teams heading into 2026 in the NFL. So I want to get some Colts thoughts from him because he had some pretty interesting things to say about our boys in blue.
He did. And I did want to get a national perspective on before we kind of go in our granular state where it's a lot of just Kevin and I reporting what we see at camp. So I'm curious to see how the national audience views the Colts, and is it similar? What are the similarities? What are the differences? And what are the expectations overall for a team that a lot of people kind of latched on to and or at least had their interest peaked last year during such a hard start? And then every time I kind of see somebody now, beyond the Daniel Jones injury, they always ask me, well, how was this team unable to win a game the rest of the way? And I guess the challenge this year is to prove that last year was not a fluke. And I'm not sure that it was or wasn't. And I guess that's the beauty of it.
I don't know which part of the season was the fluke and which was like the regular team. So
exactly.
I do feel like the Colts are one of the more up in the air teams as far from a national perspective. Like I think we all pretty much know what we are thinking this team is going to be, barring some, craziness. But I think a lot of national perspective, they are like, they could either be really good or really bad. And there's not really a middle ground. I'm like, well, I guess we'll find out. So Mike Jones is going to join us. I think, what is it, 8:30? 8:30 today.
8:30.
So that should be interesting there. Brickyard 400 this weekend as well. So Cars on the track is always always a good thing out at the IMS, so that should be interesting as well. We had Doug Bowles on Wednesday. We had him on. Interesting there. So lots of stuff going on this weekend, and as it's the final tune-up before Colts training camp, and everybody huddles over to Westfield for one final time. Are you gonna get a little tear in your eye when you step on the grass of Grand Park one last time?
Well, someone in our YouTube chat said that I have to grab the Snuggie, so I can't forget the Snuggie before I get out there, just in case it's a little brisk like it is this morning. Because, boys, if it's like this, I'm busting out the Snuggie. I don't care about the judgment, but I am looking forward to.
That is the softest thing you've ever said, by the way.
Snuggies are supposed to be soft. I don't know about hard Snuggies. I don't know what kind of
July weather, and you're going to wear a Snuggie.
It don't matter. I'm looking at
the
actual
off on you.
Hey, well, look, it's either the Snuggie or the Vegemite, and I choose the Snuggie.
Oh, okay. I can't fault you there.
So, but I am looking forward to training camp Westfield. I am a little disappointed that this is the last year we'll get it at Grand Park for now, as they say. But for now, it's always like, well, there's no presumed resumption date. We don't know if and when it'll get put back out there or what the new situation will look like next year. So in a way, it is a cool way to connect with fans, especially the listeners here on the airwaves. We have a lot of them stop by the table and just say what's up. And so that's always kind of gratifying, Mark. But at the same time, at least this year, I have it in the back of my head like, oh, wow, like this really is going to be a while until we have this sort of just overlap. Because at least for the morning show, we don't always have those opportunities to be remote. And this is probably one of the better remote opportunities to have when you're out there. And it's, you're seeing the sun go up when the football starts, and we kind of just flow from the show into practice and keep it rolling.
Yeah, I know you're going to have to bring like a jar to like put some Grand Park grass in there and just like, remember when? Because people go to Wrigley Field and they grab the ivy. You can grab the Grand Park grass and like, the summer of 2026. I remember it well.
Exactly.
So hopefully it's a good, hopefully the Colts go out with a bang in Grand Park, because it seems like a lot of the NFL teams these days are going to their own facilities, which again, I can't fault them for because they paid plenty of money for them and everything like that, but it is very much fan restrictive and everything like that. Because like I know the Bears do it at Hallis Hall now, and people are kind of like, well, it's not going to be like Bourbonnais where thousands of fans can come, and it's become kind of like a lottery system where you have to win and there's only a select amount and it's just a few like 100 fans per time. So they've sold out. I'm assuming the Colts will do the same, where maybe it comes to season ticket holders, maybe there's a lottery system, but it will not be the same as far as free for all, as far as many people want to come, they can. So disappointing on that end, but let's hope it's a good final grandstand at Grand Park.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it. Like I said, I have many opinions, and I think that it should have just stayed there. But hey, I'm also not the one paying for those festivities. But I'll add, as far as what current things are going on, it is Friday here on the Fan Morning Show, and Friday for WNBA All-Star Weekend. And so later today, they'll have, I believe, availability for the first time with a lot of the stars. I'm not sure if Caitlin Clark has made it to Chicago yet. I saw a lot of what they call the orange carpet appearances. I saw Aaliyah. I saw Kelsey Mitchell and a bunch of other stars. Caitlin Clark might be pulling a little bit of that LeBron James, where she gets there at the last minute, does her duties, and leaves. But they have a quick turnaround, because I was kind of looking at the schedule the other day, Mark. So for the stars, meaning the three All-Stars and Aaliyah, Kelsey, and Caitlin, they have some, I think, media obligations today. They'll get into the three-point contest tonight, and then tomorrow is the All-Star game. But then they're right back at practice Sunday. And then their first game out of the All-Star break is Tuesday in Seattle. They go on a 3-game road trip out west. And as crazy as it sounds, I was looking this up, Mark, they have 6 home games left in the regular season.
Wow.
That's it.
Good grief.
They have 17 games left overall, but only 6 at home. So
yeah, that is crazy. I didn't realize it was that much of a swing.
Yeah, so as much as we want to talk about, hey, they've had a tough stretch to start the season and they're finding their stride, they're really going to get tested, I think, right after the All-Star break, because you're kind of going to have to be road warriors to determine your playoff seeding for when everything kind of ramps up again come playoff time. So,
like you said, they haven't even played the Minnesota Lynx, and they play them 3 times, and including the final 2 games of the season.
Yes, and keep in mind, the Minnesota Lynx just had Nafisi Collier, one of the best players in the WNBA, come back from injury. So all the other teams had a chance to, face the Lynx, who are playing great basketball, without one of their best players, whereas with the Fever, they get the best probably challenge from that group. But at the same time, this is an opportunity for the Fever to continue to climb and sort of show themselves as a contender. I think they really turned the corner as of late, Mark, and I have to tip my cap to that group because after all the scrutiny, all the noise, they are playing at a level now, at least, where I'm like, okay, I can see some hardware in your future. For earlier in the season, I was like, boy, this defense is so bad. I don't know if you're ever going to win a game. Whereas now I'm like, okay, defense is okay, decent. Offense is amazing. You're fine.
Yeah. Give me half-ass defense, and you guys might be all right. We'll see. But, yeah, like you said, it'll be a road warrior mentality. So that'll truly be the test of if they are a playoff team because they're facing some very good teams down the stretch, including, like I said, Minnesota 3 times, including twice in the last 2 games of the season. Are you disappointed by the lack of Fever participation in the All-Star festivities, or are you kind of like, you know what? I'm selfish. Let's rest up and kind of get as much as rest as you can. You don't need to do the 3-point contest or anything like that. Get rested up and let's go in the second half.
I am a little selfish because I would like to see Kelsey or especially Caitlin be in a 3-point contest. She hasn't done it through her first 3 years, and obviously what draws us to her game is the 3-point shot. It's the passing and all that as well, but she shoots from the logo, and she bends defenses to her will because of her 3-point shooting. So I would like to see her in it, but I also understand if she says, hey, my back's been kind of bothering me all year. I want to be light on my feet, stay healthy going into the second half of the season because that is what matters more. But, yeah, selfishly, I'm like, well, the 3 All-Stars aren't going to do it, and the WNBA said no to Sophie Cunningham, which I still think is dumb.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Caitlin Clark's participation in the 3-point contest kind of reminds me of LeBron with the dunk contest.
Yeah,
he's like, I'll do it one day, and now he's still not done it. So
exactly.
We'll see. I think she will eventually do it, but
I guess we still have to establish whether or not she got an invitation. That the league said that a few of these stars weren't invited, and they came out and said they, or they were invited, and the stars came out and said, well, actually we weren't invited, so I don't know who's right or who's wrong. But the bottom line is she isn't doing it. But to pivot a little bit back over to the gridiron, I guess we can get into my top 10 most indispensable Colts this morning. I did see some chatter on the old comment section at The Athletic about where I was wrong or right when it comes to this team. I mean, there's no guess about who number 1 is. We can get into, I guess, more of this conversation. But I do think there's some nuance beyond where Daniel Jones ranks on the list because it's very obvious that, without your quarterback, you might be cooked. But the rest of the group, I split it up actually 5 on offense, 5 on defense. And I think that there could be some interesting movement or just players that you can make an argument that should have been on the list that I could maybe slide one off. So we'll get into that, Mark. I'm curious to hear from the listeners on the text line, YouTube chat, whatever. If you all disagree, agree, because I'm perfect, let me know. If you disagree, maybe don't let me know as loudly. But either way, I'm curious because I do think there are some players that, the Colts absolutely cannot live life without. And not only can they not live life without them, they have to be who they are. We got some guys coming off injuries. We got some guys in contract years. They got to perform, especially if we want to, quote unquote, see a different ending to this movie that Carly Ursay-Gordon said was paused because of injuries last year.
So we got a lot to dive into. James has his indispensable list. We can break that down. Is Shane Steichen underrated in the NFL? We can get into that as well. Plus, who did Adam Vinatieri select to induct him into the Hall of Fame? We can dive into all that, plus Fever at the All-Star break, Brickyard 400, and a whole lot more. Greg Regstrom, Mike Jones of The Athletic joining us. It's a busy Friday morning. James Boyd, Mark Dykton, Christian Oates on the 1s and 2s. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Checkdown. Brought to you by Bet365 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, it is morning checkdown time on this Friday morning. Not a ton of sports to break down yesterday. The most notable, I guess, would be IU smoking the Virgin Islands 120-63 in Peru. They took down Von Carvalho, had 32 points. They took care of business over there, and now they'll take on Chile tomorrow at 3 p.m. A win on Saturday would mean they advance to the finals on Monday against the winner of either Argentina or the Virgin Islands. So they could very much play the Virgin Islands again in the final, which is hilarious that you just smoked the team and you might play them again in the championship.
What a great life it is to work for a college program that is like a Big Ten or SEC, whatever, because you get opportunities to just go places and do cool things, and there's no actual like information I think that's being gained from this. You're just blowing out teams that have no talent on the same level as yours.
I mean, you'd sign up to go to Peru right now to just watch some basketball that you really don't find too compelling. So there's that, and then there's also Purdue. They're out in Vancouver. They get underway tomorrow night at like 8 o'clock as well. So the college hoops around town getting a little international flair, but they're not exactly playing the stiffest of competition out there. Baseball was pretty slow. The Indianapolis Indians fell to Lehigh Valley 3-1. They get back at it later today. Cubs visit the Pirates this weekend. The White Sox host the Astros. Reds on the road against Alex Golden's Cardinals. So it should be pretty interesting from an NL Central standpoint there. Elsewhere, let's see. The Brickyard 400, of course, this weekend. Lots of activities out at the IMS, so we will see what happens there this weekend if you're heading out there. They say stay safe because it could be a bit toasty out there, so make sure you're staying hydrated. I don't think we're going to get like Indy 500 like temperatures, but still stay hydrated out there. Not all the adult pops in the world. Throw some H2O in there every once in a while as well.
That is important. I did see that in regard to IMS, they did open the Jeff Gordon exhibit over at the IMS Museum, a first for a NASCAR driver. Pretty cool stuff there. He's a 5-time Brickyard 400 winner. I think 13 cars are in the exhibit. So pretty cool moment for Jeff Gordon, who isn't like all that old to get his own exhibit. So at least he's young enough to go and enjoy it for himself without, being on the back nine, so to speak.
Training camps are getting underway across the NFL. The Ravens and Panthers both in camps already because I believe they play in the Hall of Fame game. Diego Pavia waived by the Ravens, so that didn't last very long. And the Panthers lose their second-year linebacker, Nick Scorton, to a torn ACL. So that is the dangers of training camp. So, boy, I think the Panthers already lost like one of their offensive linemen as well. So, that is not a good start.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is a downside to what we do because it's almost on an annual basis that someone will get lost for the season in training camp. Of course, you hope that doesn't happen for any team, especially for the team in our market, just because of our coverage area. But, yeah, it is something that tends to happen when guys get back in action. So rest up for that Panthers player, and then we'll see, speaking of health, what the Colts look like when they come back and reconvene for training camp. How does Alec Pierce look? Daniel Jones, DeForest Buckner, and a few others.
Speaking of the Colts, Adam Vinatieri, who is going to the Hall of Fame, Carly Gordon inducting him. He asked her personally to induct him in the Hall of Fame. That is a solid choice. I would say an interesting one as well. I don't think I would have put that on the bingo card, but your thoughts on him selecting Carly to induct him?
Yeah, so from what I understand, and shout out to the Colts video team for boasting the moment that he sort of had this exchange with Carly Gordon, thought it was really cool. He would have chosen Jim Irsay had he got in last year as the first ballot Hall of Famer. Obviously, Jim passed, didn't have that opportunity. Goes to his daughter, who was pretty excited for the opportunity. And I just think that it speaks to the players and their love for the Irsay family to now have a few of them, a handful of them, choose to have an Irsay induct them into the Hall of Fame or be like their person on the stage that introduces them to that esteemed group. So hats off to Adam Vinatieri. Should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, but as we always say, like when you get like a college degree, it don't matter, when you get there. You get it, you get in. No one's going to be looking back at it and saying, oh, actually, he was a third ballot. Doesn't matter. Hall of Famer, best to ever do it in the kicking game.
That is probably true. Like as far as ownership being the one to induct players in the Hall of Fame, Colts have to be up there as far as how many they've inducted. Usually it's like a former coach or a friend or family member,
teammate, like that.
But it's been a lot of ownership
Yeah, and
So
it speaks to.
That's a lot of good vibes, I would say.
I was
From
gonna
as
say
far
it
as what
speaks
they
to the
think.
family atmosphere, Mark. But at the same time, I think the current Colts fans are just like, man, those are the glory days. Will we ever get back to them?
I know. I know. We'll see. We'll see. Plenty more going on. Again, we want to get in James' indispensable list and a whole lot more on this Friday morning. What am I talking about? Greg Rakestraw, Mike Jones, all on the way. Let's get a quick weather update from Amber Hardwick.
We are tracking another pleasant day with partly sunny skies and a high near 80 degrees this afternoon. And for tonight, decreasing cloud cover and mild with a low of 60. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
No Kevin Bowen this Friday morning. He's on a little staycation as he's getting ready for his final days before Colts camp gets underway. James is already packing the Snuggie. He's getting extra.
Yes.
He's getting ready to school some kids in the 40-yard dash once again. Got a whole lot of planned out at Westfield. One final time.
So do you all think I can bully Kevin into running the 40 with me?
Well, are you going to run it with him, or are you going to run it first and then he has to follow, or are you going to do it? Are you going to do it like, or is this going to be like?
This can't be side by side. I mean, I smoke him. I don't want to embarrass my co-host.
No.
I just want to see if he's going to get out there and get active. Get in the field.
Yeah.
This is the
Stretch
last
it
one.
out a little bit. He's an old man though. Like he's an old 35 or whatever he is. He's
got
an
the old
man.
messed up toe he always tells us
Like I said,
about.
he's got the messed up toe. I've walked in the studio multiple times. He's laying on the ground, stretching himself out. I'm like, what on earth are you doing? My back hurts. I'm like, Kevin, this is not strenuous work. You should not be like laboring as much as you are. This isn't you're not out in the cement truck or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I would hope he could get bullied into it. Maybe you need to pressure him with like a Joel Erickson or Mike Chappell, Rick Venturi. Maybe pressure him that way.
Okay.
Come on, James is getting out there. Why aren't you getting out there, Kevin? Maybe he'll stand strong. I don't know. He might buckle under pressure, though. I would like to see it. That'd be great show content.
It would be great show content. I think Shane Steichen would appreciate us getting out there and getting some exercise in.
He's a chocolate cookie fan, so maybe put a chocolate chip cookie like on a stick in front of him. Maybe he'll start hauling ass.
Exactly. And look, I've told you all about the golf swing. Closest to the pin is not my game, but if we're talking about 40 times, I think I might be able to get, back on the podium at least when it comes to the Colts. And again, I might even draw the attention or the side eye of one Shane Steichen, who, by the way, I know we had Warren Sharp on earlier this week to discuss the state of the Colts. He views Shane Steichen as one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, particularly when it comes to starting games. I think the fans have picked up on that. The Colts almost always score on their opening drive, Mark. And I know you dug up some audio that Warren had kind of shared earlier this week on his own platform on Twitter, I believe, where he kind of laid out why Shane is so successful when it comes to just putting points on the board early in the game.
All right, guys, got to say this. I think Shane Steichen might be the NFL's most underrated, undervalued play scripter that we have. In the 3 years that he's been in Indianapolis, his offense has ranked top 3 in points per drive in the first quarter, in score rate on drives in the first quarter, and in punt rate on drives in the first quarter. He has done that, Shane Steichen, despite quarterbacks starting for him, such as Anthony Richardson for 15 games, Gardner Minshew for 13 games, Daniel Jones for 13 games, Joe Flacco for 6 games, Phillip Rivers for 3 games, Riley Leonard for 1 game. You know the other teams that are up in the upper echelon of the NFL in terms of first quarter offense, game scripting, coming out, starting fast offensively? We're talking about elite offenses like the 49ers, like the Lions, like the Rams. We're talking about elite quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen. All of those teams are in the top 8, 9 teams in the league in terms of performance.
So there's a little taste of it from Warren Sharp, but what would you say to that? That is Shane Steichen getting the most out of what he's been given at the quarterback position? Because he laid out a pretty stout argument that he's getting a lot out of guys that you wouldn't necessarily call upper echelon when he compares them to some of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I know, and that's what makes me think, like, okay, how much of the Colts' lack of success is on the head coach? I can't absolve him of everything. I don't think he's at most to blame. That would be general manager Chris Ballard. But it's interesting because Shane is still viewed widely around the league, not just by Warren, but actual people that work in the NFL, as one of the best offensive minds in the league. And not to go too far into the future of what could happen, but if he were let go, he would have a job the next day if he wanted. Seriously.
Would that be a head coaching job, though, or
I'm
would
not
that
sure if
be
it'd be a
offensive
head
coordinator?
coaching job, but he definitely would get a job as a coordinator. He'd be good in that regard. But the head coaching part is where I think some fans are like, okay, the old leader of men conversation, is he that? Can he win ugly? Like, okay, let's say your offense isn't, after the first quarter, what happens? You kind of taper off a little bit. Are you able to win in the trenches? Are you able to win when you got, maybe 17 points on the board, 17, 13 games, something like that? Because it does feel like for the Colts that have had success, Mark, in recent years, they've had to kind of win like these shootout contests. Either they blow you out or they have to win a shootout. They just haven't had those games where they've grinded it out and won in that fashion enough for me, and that's probably why they haven't made the playoffs.
And we've seen him, like, look at the first half of last season. Everybody's throwing roses his way. Look at what he was doing with Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Look how dynamic this looks. Look how great this looks. He was right with the whole Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones starting quarterback situation. He found a guy that could work his system. And then you saw the second half, and you're kind of like, what the hell happened there?
Exactly.
What happened? What are we doing? So, can he adjust if he doesn't have Daniel Jones, if he has to go to a Riley Leonard or Anthony Richardson if he's still on the roster when this camp goes, and how will that look? So,
and how much of that is on him, Mark, just because.
Right. Well,
I mean, you heard those the quarterbacks starting Phillip Rivers for 3 games. Anthony Richardson, started 15 games over the last couple of years, and he hasn't had the same starting quarterback for a full season, I think, since he's been here, which is a problem. And it's a question mark going into this year, given Daniel Jones and his injury history.
Yeah, and he's made a lot out of I wouldn't say nothing, but like of a mishmash of quarterbacks that he's been given. He's gotten the most out of them, which is what you would like to see from an offensive coach. Now, from the head coaching standpoint, again, he has to take on the defense, which apparently, he's more of a offensive-minded coach, but the defense still falls on him. So when the defense isn't stopping the team or not getting the passer, like, how much do you put him at fault for that? Like you said, does it fall on Ballard, or is it kind of like, I don't know, you're signing Lou Anarumo, you should kind of know what he's doing as far as a defensive standpoint. Do you need to rein that in a little bit more? How much of that falls on him is what I guess I don't know the quite answer to how much to answer that, because he's not on the hook for who gets signed, but he should have the input of who gets signed on the defense.
Exactly.
And we've talked about the pass rush has been lacking.
Yeah, and we'll get into, again, why I think certain players on this Colts team are very indispensable because of the lack of help, perhaps, at the rest of their position. But, yeah, the Shane Steichen conversation is always pretty interesting. He is someone who, again, widely respected around the league, viewed as a great offensive mind, but at the same time, how many coaches do you know can keep their job if they go, this will be his 4th season without making the playoffs?
Well, and we talked about it yesterday, his atrocious record against the Titans, or the Jaguars and the Texans has been just god-awful.
Yeah, and you got to beat those teams, especially this year, if you want to finally end that playoff drought. And it's kind of crazy to think that, if I'm not mistaken, the last time they beat Houston was Anthony Richardson's rookie year when he had the concussion. Like, he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. They got up kind of early. He got a concussion, and they were able to ride it out for the rest of the game. That's the last time they beat Houston, 2023. Been a while.
Been a while, to say the least. We can get more in the Shane Steichen and Colts conversation with our guest right now. We have him every Friday. He's a little earlier than usual. He's the one and the only, the man, Greg Rakestraw. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm giving you a very Kevin Bowen reason for being early on the show today. I'm golfing at 8 a.m.
Oh, look at that.
Earlier tea time on the show.
Where are you golfing? You mind sharing?
No, because I'm afraid James would show up and start swinging a club. So we're going to keep that private.
Oh, come on.
Well, you could stand right in front of him. I think you'd be safe.
I can't hit the ball, so I think you'd be very safe.
I am playing at Saddlebrook Country Club. It is the Crossroads officials golf outing. And again, I just had 3 officials look at me and say they would give you an immediate technical foul if James showed up and actually swung a golf club. So, we love you, just from the other side of the street.
Oh, come on, man.
Now, have you gotten a hole-in-one before? We've had this debate. Kevin has never gotten one despite all the golf he's played. Have you gotten a hole-in-one before?
I have not. I have came significantly close. I actually did this thing. This is 20 years ago. I did a golf marathon for charity. I played 135 holes in one day.
Whoa.
And so in the amount, trust me, that was a long time ago.
Oh, boy.
In the amount of golf swings you take in a day like that, you're gonna come close. I think I saw the early morning dew line. I think I was about an inch or 2 away from having one roll in. That's the closest that I can remember being.
How long? 135 holes in one day? Were you playing for 18 hours?
So basically, you try to pick. I played at the end of June, so it was nice and toasty. But it also gave you 15 to 16 hours of daylight at the time as well. I got to the course at 6 a.m. I teed off at 6:15. I had special. It was a Tuesday, so it wasn't very busy. I had special privileges. I couldn't drive the cart on the green, but basically everything else, and bunkers, everything else was fair game. So I could kind of, people on the course knew that I was playing. It wasn't a very busy day, but they knew if they saw me to wave me through. It was me and the pro at Heartland Crossing at the time, my good buddy Mike Caskey. I think Mike knocked out 150. Had it not been for late afternoon thunderstorms, I would have gotten probably to maybe 150, 153, and 153 translates to 9.5 rounds of golf. I think I finished like 135, and after stopping, like my back had locked up. Like I took 3 changes of clothes. I went and took a shower between a round. This was like, one of the, healthier endeavors I could have done, which again is why I point out clearly it was 20 years ago.
I get blisters on my hand after like one round. I can't even imagine 9.5 what your hands were looking like after that. Good grief, Rake.
Thankfully, years of baseball and tennis have calloused these bad boys pretty well. So.
All right, Greg Rakestraw joining us. So we are in the home stretch here before training camp gets underway. What year of training camp is this for you when the Colts report at Westfield?
Oh, goodness. I think the first one I attended would have been 2000 or 2001. And there was a year or two where it wasn't on my beat and I wasn't going to training camp on a regular basis. So I would have missed like 3. I think I was not there for camp from like 09 to 11. So I am probably heading towards 25 years. I'm not at Mike Chappell status, but I'm closer than most.
Yeah, I think you are a little closer than most. I keep telling Chap I'm going to catch him, but some kind of way the distance between the amount of years we have stays the same because he won't give it up. I have no chance to gain ground if he continues to stick around, which I do love.
It's a tortoise in the hare.
Exactly. But that is the voice of Greg Rakestraw, who, you all know very well here on these airwaves. Greg, I do want to go here with the Colts. We're going to get into my list of the most indispensable Colts for 2026, and obviously number 1 is Daniel Jones. So if I take him off the board and I throw that question at you, who takes the top spot in your most indispensable Colts for the upcoming season?
I think Jonathan Taylor would be next, right? Just because you kind of know what you have from him from an offensive standpoint. And I'm not sure we know enough about the guys on defense yet to be able to say, hey, it's C.J. Allen, it's, maybe it's Halsey, maybe it's Leatu Latu. I don't think you get very far down the list. But again, if Daniel Jones is your quarterback and you saw what happened without him as number 1, I think the guy that is the biggest sure thing that you've got in JT has to be number 2.
Greg, storylines ahead of training camp you're most focused on? Is it just the Daniel Jones? How does he look out of that? Or is there more that you're looking at once you head to Westfield?
I honestly think that we got a pretty good handle on how he's going to do, and that he has hit every kind of rehab marker, to this point so far. So, if he's limited and for some reason, then that becomes the biggest storyline. But I think it's going to be just what does the defense look like and how many young guys are starting? Are you starting 3 rookies and then one other guy that, would have been a rookie starter last year in Wally but got hurt in that Baltimore practice before the first preseason game? What does DeForest Buckner look like? What is his role going to be? And so while you're missing a couple of offensive pieces, clearly big ones in terms of Pitt and Braden Smith from last year, to me, so many of the questions have to be what this team looks like on the defensive end.
Again, that's the voice of Greg Rakestraw. He is the VP of ISC Sports Network, part of the Colts radio broadcast team. Also does a lot of great work with Indy 11 and IHSAA high school sports, which I love, Rick. When I see you and Kyle Neddenrep, I'm usually in good company and for a good game. But sticking with the Colts theme, we saw yesterday the Colts released a video showing that Adam Vinatieri chose Carly Ursay-Gordon to be his sort of liaison, his middle woman, so to speak, to push him into the Hall of Fame. And what are your thoughts on not only him asking Carly Ursay-Gordon to do that, but just the nature, or it seems like, or the theme here of Colts players asking the Ursay family to represent them on what happens to be, for some of them, the biggest moment of their athletic career?
Think about how many times Jim did that. And that's not a mandate. That's not part of your contract you sign when you sign with the team. That tells you what the guys legitimately thought of Jim, and think of the continued nature of the family. And I would and I have now assigned homework for you, or you can delegate to Christian, whatever. Is there a record for most number of Hall of Fame presenters? In other words, the amount of times you have presented somebody for the Hall of Fame. Because I would think Jim had to be the clubhouse leader at that. If there's somebody else, let me know. But to me, that speaks volumes about how the family runs the team, their interactions with the players. And it kind of goes back to a survey that was released either at the end of the season or at some point in time in the off season about favorite general managers of the players, and Chris Ballard was one of them. And the easy hot take was, well, why is that the record? I'm like, no, I think you missed the point of the question in terms of interacting with the players and how players are treated, that Chris is atop of those rankings. And that kind of is an extension of how the family has conducted business over the course of the last 3+ decades.
So, Greg, I'm going to ask you to go in the Wayback Machine a little bit here, because 2006 was 20 years ago, the season the Colts won the Super Bowl in 2007 against the Bears. You said you've been to this training camps for about 25 years now. Do you recall 20 years ago, that training camp, did it look any different than some of the other training camps you've been a part of, where you're kind of like, huh, this one has a little different feel to it? Could you see that a Super Bowl was on the verge there, or was it kind of just blended in with all the rest of them?
No, because that was the 7-year run of winning 12 games every year. That is all one glorious blur, because it was all the same, because it was led by number 18 and because of the pieces that he had around him. The big difference in 06 was how poor they were defensively at the end of the year, and got that righted when Bob Sanders finally got healthy. The other part about 2006 is that, Edgerrin James was no longer on the Colts at that point in time either. And so, to some degree, that was a bit of a question mark, but, that was in the heyday of Reggie, and, Marvin's career would kind of take a turn towards the end in the immediate aftermath of that. But you knew the Colts were going to move the football. You knew the Colts were going to win the division. You just woke up and fell out of bed and knew that was going to be the case every year. So it wasn't like there was anything specific heading into that season that you knew was going to be the case, because you expected that. That was on the heels of the season that got derailed because of the death of Tony's son. And they just had a terrible day against the Steelers team that ended up winning the whole, shooting match, a couple of 3 weeks later. And so, 20 years ago it was more about, okay, can this team finally get over the hump? Because at that point in time, they had lost to the Patriots in 03 and 04, then got upset on their own building by the Steelers in 05. And it was, hey, is this team properly wired to do it? And then they get to November and December, and, there's giving up 375 yards rushing to Jacksonville. There's not coming anywhere close to stopping Vince Young in his rookie season with the Tennessee Titans. Confidence wasn't exactly high going into the postseason. And they rattle off 4 consecutive wins. By the time they got to the Bears in the Super Bowl, that it was a done deal, and they were going to win it. So it wasn't anything special in 2006, because it was in the middle of this amazingly special decade that we're all longing to get back to.
Again, that's the voice of Greg Rakestraw, who we jokingly say is the voice of God. Because if you hear Rake, good things are usually happening here on this Friday morning. Rake, I'll end with this, my last one for you. Monshon Sales, this time last week we were talking about, hey, could he actually commit to IU? He has done that. What are your thoughts on them landing such a crazy, talented prospect right here in their backyard, just knowing the rise that IU has kind of been on the last 2-3 years?
Well, again, LN and IU have been linked for a long time. Nearly all of LN's top-end prospects ended up at IU. They have not been as top-end as this. And, again, that says a lot thinking about what Omar Cooper just accomplished at IU and where he was drafted in April in the National Football League. But that shows that now you have a program that can fend off the Ohio States and Notre Dame, who have typically come in and gotten the absolute top-of-the-line talent from the state of Indiana. So because of the connections of the two programs, I'm not surprised, but it's just the next step, as if being able to say the defending and undefeated national champions wasn't enough. Now you're starting to see it in the recruiting battles as well, even when it comes to the top players in this state.
Rake, we've had this conversation earlier this week, and you'd be a great person to ask. Kevin posed the question earlier, what's a sports venue or event that Indy is lacking. Like, we have a lot of great sports events and all that stuff. Kevin mentioned the lack of par 3 courses out here. Other listeners have said they've gone big picture, like NHL, MLB teams. A Greg Rakestraw says Indy is lacking what in the sports venue or event department?
Well, you would appreciate this because I would always, you'd have the standard slow day conversation of, okay, training camp hasn't started yet. How do we fill the time? Let's talk about what Indy is lacking. We realize how lucky we are to have everything that we have. What exactly can we do? One of the most common things that I would bring up, and this will resonate with you, would be a WrestleMania. Knowing the last one we
Hell
had
yeah.
was back in 1992 that it was here. And obviously that is on the docket at some point for it to happen, knowing that major events now are happening here with the WWE on a semi-regular basis. I think the only thing from a major event standpoint that we are lacking would be a golf event on a regular basis. And I'm not sure they're going to be handing out any new PGA Tour events anytime soon. In fact, it sounds like they're contracting those a little bit. Obviously we had major tennis through 2009. I don't think that's coming back anytime soon. But in terms of there's the obvious in terms of MLB or NHL. I just don't think either of those are a fit. But in terms of things where I'm like, hey, this is maybe the one thing that we're missing because, again, we have it better than so many others. Again, having a regular PGA Tour event, and, clearly we had Live last year. I think we're going to have Live this year. That sounds like that might be it, even if that takes place up in Westfield. But it's not having a regular PGA Tour event, to me, is what immediately comes to mind.
All right, last but not least, Reg, busy weekend for you. Indy 11, I assume. Anything else on the docket before Westfield Colton's calling?
You will hear me on the Fan all weekend long. We will have pre-race and post-race coverage both tomorrow and Sunday for all things Brickyard 400. So it will be a speedway weekend for yours truly. Yes, sandwiching an Indy 11 match tomorrow night against Loudon United at 7 o'clock, which fans can watch on Wish TV.
All right. We always appreciate the time, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you out at Westfield next week.
All right, and James, we are not at Saddlebrook. I'll see you at training camp.
Sounds good.
The one, the only Greg Rakestraw there on the hotline.
I had to laugh at this. Shout out to Hoosiers 1997. He always calls me Indiana Bones in our YouTube chat. He goes, James is the first person most likely to hit himself with a ball instead of hitting the ball at somebody else. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate, brother. Well, shout out to Rake. Great human being.
Well, speaking of Rake and speaking of the Indy 11, we have 2 4-packs of Indy 11 tickets to give away on the text line. So first one's the text the golf course that Rake is golfing at today that he doesn't want James to show up at. What was that golf course? First 2 winners will get 4 packs to the Indy 11 game tomorrow night. So you can hang out with Mr. Rakestraw.
Are we going text line?
Text line. 317-239-1070 on the text line. The name of the golf course Rake is at today. You'll get a 4-pack Indy 11.
I'll be going to Stockholm later.
Boy, watch out. Watch out, everybody. Plenty more to dive into on this Friday morning. Want to get more in the Shane Steichen conversation. Colts, final weekend before training camp. We can talk all about that as well, plus the Indy 11 in action, Brickyard 400, and the Fever at the All-Star break out in Chicago. Plenty more to dive into, including Mike Jones, the Athletic, joining us at 8:30. It's a Friday on the Fan Morning Show. Mark Dykton, James Boyd, Christian Oates on the ones and twos, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Welcome in to this beautiful Friday morning here on 107.5 The Fan. Thank you for listening to the Fan Morning Show. Of course, I am James Boyd, joined by Mark Dykton, not Kevin Bowen, Christian Oates on the ones and twos. And boys, do we think that Kevin is actually going to do some R&R today, or are the kids, you're a father, Mark, are the kids going to basically make it a day about them?
Well, I mean, they could. Kevin was telling me, the summer days are winding down, so he needs to take advantage because the kids will be in school before you know it. And I said, I'm right there with you, brother. We did some back-to-school shopping yesterday, and good Lord, that's overwhelming, especially with 3 kids going to school.
Okay, so now I have another question, and Christian, feel free to chime in, brother. Christian, when your parents took you to the store, assuming for like back-to-school shopping, how closely did they follow that list of things your teacher swore you had to have? Because there were just certain things my mom was like, I'm just not going to buy that because you won't need it.
For me, I was pretty by the book, like they gave it. But like you said, we ended up not using it. And I kind of felt bad for the teachers. Like they asked us to buy tissues and things like that. And at the time, I'm like, we don't need all this. But as a teacher who's not, making that much, having 20, 30 students bring in a box of tissues in bulk is good. But I don't know. Are they still asking for things like that? Or is it like...
Yeah, it was like, now they split it up to gender. So female, you had to get like gallon Ziploc bags and then like Post-it notes. And then boys had to get like quart-sized Ziploc bags and Kleenex or something like that. But then there was like specific stuff where I'm like, 6 boxes of Crayola crayons. I'm like, does it have to be Crayola? Because I'm looking at these Meyer brand ones, and they're 25 cents. So why can't I get those? Why does it have to be Crayola? Why we got to bend the knee to the man that is Crayola? Or it's like low-odor black dry erase marker. I'm like, low odor? Is there a high odor? Like, why are we being so specific? So medium-sized pink erasers. Why does it have to be pink?
Well, most stuff's digital anyway. I feel like, I don't know. The list has to be so much less. Like, they don't need to bring in a bunch of filler paper.
And then there's like, buy headphones. Like, they need headphones, $10 or less. All right, that's fine and everything like that. But yeah, there's some things where it's not as daunting as I feel like it was. Like, or at least we're in the age bracket where they're not getting like 3-ring binders and like you need to get a TI-85 calculator that cost like a mortgage payment back in the day and all that. So we've reined it in a little bit, but still. Just going to there, you see all the other parents that are there, like, oh my God, can you believe this is back to school shopping already? I'm like, I know, I'm right there with you. Where's the alcohol section? Because I need that after yesterday.
See,
that was a lot of money that would involve for 3 kids going to school.
See, Christian, my mom and my dad were like, okay, we'll get the Kleenex, we'll get the wet wipes, stuff like that, because they're like, we already know you're going to get sick or something as soon as the weather changes, so we want to make sure the teacher is protected and she or he has all the stuff that they need. However, when it came down to like certain types of notebooks or binders, they were just like, any old thing will work, and it's not like they're going to check your backpack and you're going to get graded on if you have this specific binder. Just do the work, young man, and you'll be all right.
Must be a somewhere like folders with prongs, somewhere folders non-prongs. I'm like, does this matter?
Exactly.
In the long stretch of things, does this matter? And it was just stuff like that, and I'm just like, what in the world? But
composition notebooks too, those suck. I hate those.
Oh yeah,
just give me an actual
perfect
notebook.
example. That's a perfect example, Christian. I don't think I ever bought a composition notebook after maybe a couple of years of school. My mom was just like, there's no point in this. It makes no sense. And yeah, I'm just not going to buy it. And it was like a little more expensive sometimes. So yeah, we had to be strategic in the Boyd household for me and my sister.
And then college ruled versus wide ruled like notebooks. I'm like, what's the damn difference?
Exactly.
What's these college, they're grade school. They don't need college ruled anything. Good grief. But I digress.
This from Brian Stewart on our YouTube chat. Back in the day, the olden days, all we had was a pencil, notebook, and a lunchbox.
Yeah, the pencils. It was like
simple.
24 pencils per kid. I'm like, 24?
Yeah, like I
don't think I went through more than 2.
Yeah, like, look, again.
Unless you're a pencil popping in the back of homeroom or something.
Exactly. That's usually how I would get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Get the grade, but also get the old James isn't paying attention label on the report card that would get me in trouble.
Trapper keepers were elite back in the day. I don't know if they still do that, but a couple of people in the chat saying trapper keepers. I'm like, yeah, that's all you needed back in the day.
Exactly.
All right, let's dive enough of back to school shopping because again, they go back to school on Wednesday, which is
I can see you're a
insane.
I'm a little traumatized.
Well, Wednesday is insane. The date says July. It still is insane to me. But anyway, we got in some Colts conversation before I had Rake on about Shane Steichen being overrated or underrated. You have your indispensable list. So I didn't know if you wanted to get into that a little bit. Of course, we have the Fever at the All-Star break as well, so we can dive into that as well, too.
So I do want to pivot back to the Fever for 1 second. And we were talking about this during the break, Mark. We'll go big picture here. I know we've talked a lot about, this season and Caitlin Clark's back and the technical fouls and Kelsey Mitchell's on this crazy scoring streak. And do they have enough defense to kind of get them to where they want to go? But as we were kind of breaking it down, Mark, I do think that this is quietly a make or break season for the Fever. We've said that a lot for the Colts. But the reason why it is for the Fever, for those listening, and I don't want to get too in the weeds with this, but Kelsey Mitchell becomes a free agent next year. She's on a 1-year Supermax deal. Aaliyah Boston under contract for a few more years. Caitlin Clark's under contract for a few more years. But right now, Caitlin Clark is what we would call cheap. I think she's making $500,000 this year.
Yeah, she's on the rookie deal of an
Still
NFL
on the rookie
player.
deal, has not had the rookie extension yet, assuming that the Fever aren't the dumbest team ever. They will extend her next season when she is eligible to get a max deal of her own. So all that to say, the salary cap, the hard salary cap, you can't go over it in the WNBA, is $7 million for a team. Right now, the Fever have 2 players making over $1 million in Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. And again, Caitlin is a $1 million player who will get paid $1 million next year. So if you keep all that in mind, the reason why I think this is a make or break year is quietly, and I haven't had many conversations with Kelsey about this or the front office, they've said they want to keep Kelsey for life, make her a Fever, player until she retires. But there is the possibility that she could leave next year because if they extend Caitlin Clark and put her over $1 million salary, they already have Aaliyah Boston making over $1 million. If they re-sign Kelsey Mitchell on $1 million deal, that's $3 million for 3 players, and you still got to fill out the rest of your roster. So in theory, you could say, well, you know what? Instead of having 3 stars, maybe we just move forward with our 2 young ones, Aaliyah and Caitlin, and then use the rest of our money to have better depth for our team, a la the Pacers. Like the Pacers don't have 3 bona fide stars like the Heat back in the day, but they have Pascal and Tyrese and a bunch of very good role players. So I'm curious, Mark, when I lay it all out like that, what's your perspective on, man, maybe this is the year that they have to get to the finals and just see what happens?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it too much when you were talking about it in the break, but then the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, that is very true because the salary cap for the WNBA, it ain't much. So, and granted, the players aren't making as much or anything, but when you think about it like that, like you have 3 players making $3 million and you have $4 million left to fill out your rest of your roster, that's kind of crazy. Like, we even talked about it ahead of the season. Sophie Cunningham wanted a multi-year deal. They gave her a 1-year deal, and she could be gone next year too. So you could be looking at Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham not on this team, plus everyone else who's on 1-year deals. So you could have a lot of roster turnover. So we've talked about make or break for the Pacers or Colts. The Fever are very much in that window as well. So when you look at it that way, yeah, it's a longer season. We've seen that their offense has been very, very good, top of the league. We've also seen their defense is lacking. But if you're putting a make or break on it, that puts even more pressure on this team to figure it out in the final stretch of the season. Like you said, it is a daunting second half of the schedule. So there's a lot riding on this season. And yeah, you could be looking at 2026, 2027, where you're like, oh, Kelsey Mitchell's gone. Sophie Cunningham's gone. Now we have Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, but we've got a lot of holes on the roster to try to fill and make up that for that lost production.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit here and act like you can just replace Kelsey Mitchell with anybody. I mean, she's one of the best scorers in the world.
Yeah, we call her the MVP of the team so far.
Exactly, so. And so that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not, here to present a bunch of doom and gloom. It is All-Star Weekend. You got the 3 stars out there.
But it makes you think.
Chicago. But yes, I just think that quietly that is a conversation that the Fever will have to face when it comes to whenever their season ends. Okay, what does it look like moving forward? Because Kelsey is a little bit older. She's 30. She's not the same 24, 25 as Aaliyah and Caitlin. She's been great, shows no signs of slowing down. But again, if you intend to re-sign Kelsey, it's going to cost you. And if I'm Kelsey, I'm not taking a discount. I mean, hey, I earned this money. I've been here and balling out. I want to be a max player as well. And then Caitlin, of course, is well deserving of a raise too. So there's just a lot of nuance, I think, to that conversation. But I'll leave it at that. Again, they're out in Chicago. We will, I think, hear from them later today. I'm not sure it'll be early enough for the show, but I think they have like some practice availability and stuff like that over in Chicago. And I'm excited for them to get that recognition because I do think it's still cool. I mean, you got 3 players, not only that are all-stars, they're all starting in the all-star game. It speaks to the level of play that they've had and also the popularity of the Fever. But now, Mark, I think we can probably get into a little bit of the indispensable. I mean, I'm the most indispensable person on this show.
Of course.
Which, I mean, I didn't expect you to agree, but I pretend.
No, the wheels fall off immediately if you're out. So that's me just giving Kevin crap for 3 hours.
I was going to say the least, indispensable person is obviously Kevin because this show has been great without him. But no, I'm just joking with you.
He's going to call in.
He might. But, well, hopefully he can take some, again, R&R, and I can slander him in peace. But as far as the Colts go, Mark, I know you had a chance to peruse through my list of most indispensable players. I did 5 offense, 5 defense. Excluding Daniel Jones, next up on my list, I believe, was Jonathan Taylor. But feel free to weigh in, disagree, and kind of give me your thoughts on, again, we know Daniel Jones is important. If he goes down, the Colts are cooked. But where on the offensive side of the ball do you feel like the buck kind of goes next?
Outside of Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor, I mean, boy, I think I would go offensive line because they were, you have to have that blockade in front of Daniel Jones and whatnot. Like I had Alec Pierce on there, and you had Quentin Nelson come up at the end. I would probably lean towards offensive line a little more, only because, Bernard Ryman, you lose him at left tackle. It's one of the most important positions. It's definitely the most important position on the offensive line, but overall on the team. So I would say the health of your offensive line, a little bit of changes there as well. So offensive line-wise, Alec Pierce, I would say is indispensable because you're paying him like a number 1 wide receiver. He also has to live up to that number 1 wide receiver billing. But outside of that, I can't. Tyler Warren, maybe, just because we know what the tight end room is behind him.
I debated that one. I didn't
see him on your list. I could be wrong. No, I don't think he's on there.
He wasn't on there, but I debated it, Mark. But the reason why, when it came to, I was thinking to myself, okay, if I got Daniel Jones and JT, who are locks for, again, my top 5, just for those listening, was Daniel Jones, JT, Bernard Ryman, Alec Pierce, and Quentin Nelson. And so, to me, that was part of why I thought, on top of it, that to me, the conversation had to be about, okay, if I'm picking a pass catcher, which one am I choosing? Is it Alec or is it the tight end? I think it would have to be Alec because he presents, to me, a more dynamic opportunity when it comes to the deep threat. Like that, to me, is something that you can't really replicate at all, quite frankly. I don't want to act like Alec Pierce is just some regular old speedy guy. This is someone who's led the league in yards per reception, and in my opinion, in the last 2 years. So it's not as easily replaceable to just say, okay, well, if he goes down, we'll just get somebody to go long and we'll be okay. No, I think that he adds a certain element to your offense. I think that is very different when it comes to other players on the team. And I think Alec offers a certain, group or a certain dynamic that you just haven't had really, I think, around the league hardly over the last, 10 years when you look at some of the data that he's put out there going forward.
Yeah, and then I would, and this is going to sound dumb probably, but like, I know you focused on offense and defense. I'm not kidding you when I say that the winner of the kicking competition could be an indispensable Colt because you're making that decision for the kicker, and you better be right because we've talked how many times have we talked about these games coming down to 1 score and whatnot. So whether it's Spencer Schrader or it's Blake Grupe, the kicker could be indispensable as well because once you make that decision, I assume the other guy is probably getting traded or at least going to be on another team. So if you go the other way, you could be in trouble there if they go down because then you're in the whole, who are we getting for kicker there? Defensively, I don't think I can really argue with anything that you put there. You had Latu. We've talked about him. I saw his over-under for sacks was 7.5. Is it important for a Colts defensive member to reach double digits, or are you collectively like, as long as collectively they're okay, we don't need to get double-digit sacks?
Oh, see, nah. I think Laiatu has to be a 10-sack guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's like, if you look at the playoffs, I don't think there's any playoff team that had a double-digit sack guy on their roster. I could be wrong, but Denver was collectively very good, but they didn't have a standout guy. And then there was, some of the double-digit sack leaders, like a Myles Garrett.
No, they had to have. I mean, Houston made the playoffs last year.
That's true.
And so they got a bunch of menaces and Danielle Hunter and, Will Anderson Jr. So, yeah, I think it's important just because when you look at the Colts as a whole, their defense, a lot of it's contingent on the point of attack, in my opinion, when it comes to a guy like, let's say, Laiatu. If you can't get after the quarterback, that puts more stress on your secondary. And, of course, yes, I do think the secondary is a strong point for them because you have Sauce Gardner. If Travarius Ward is healthy, you're fine when it comes to the back end. But even then, if you give a guy 8 or 9 seconds to throw the ball, he's still going to win that matchup most of the time. So I think Laiatu has to be making a big leap this year, in my opinion. He is somebody that is kind of in that in-between stage of, okay, you're a good player. Can you ascend to being sort of that star player like he was supposed to be, given that he was the first defensive player drafted in 2024?
One interest, and I don't know if I would necessarily put him in a top 10 indispensable, but one notable name that wasn't on there, I would say, is Arden Key, only because he was, like we said, he shouldn't be the move, but he was the move for defensive end. So are you not stocking him as much as, like, you have Grover Stewart and you have DeForest Buckner on there? Arden Key, what are you kind of making of what you project him to do in 2026?
Yeah, see.
He's hard to figure out, I think, because there's a lot of great unknown going into him. And also, I don't think any of us know really what we're expecting from the Colts defensive line to begin with.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks there. If you look at, my indispensable players on the defensive side, I did have Latu and I did have DeForest Buckner in my top 5. But as far as Arden Key goes, I'll probably pencil him in right now as the other starter. But if you look at his career numbers, Mark, he just hasn't really produced at a starter level rate. And that's not a knock on him. I think he's been a fine NFL player, but for his career, the numbers just aren't stacking up to a guy that I can bank on and say, okay, he's going to give me a certain number of production. He's been in the league 8 years. He has 30.5 sacks. That's not some great number. He's played 116 games. And so if my math, according to this calculator on my phone, is correct, that's not, the greatest rates, I think, when it comes to some of the production there. So if I do 116, that's, so he gets a sack almost every 4 games. That's not enough of production for me to think that he's going to come in and be this big game changer. So we'll see if they're able to do the whole, by committee routine opposite of Latu. But I also think that when it comes to the conversation around having a committee, usually when people say, oh, we'll do it by committee, that means you ain't got a dude.
Yeah.
You need those to survive.
And you're hoping those guys kind of, go above expectations. Same with Jalen Tuamoloau. You're hoping, but you don't really know.
Exactly.
One more in the conversation as well. We've got Mike Jones coming up in about 10 minutes. Real quick, shout out to the teachers, by the way. That was not slandered towards the teachers. I know they don't get paid nearly enough. They have to cover a lot of supplies and whatnot. I was merely saying that it's funny that it's very specific with Crayola crayons, this many stuff like that. No. We love the teachers here and whatnot. I just, the back to school shopping, it's daunting. Plus, 2 of the 3 kids were running around every aisle. God knows. I was like, can we rein it in a little bit here? This is already stressful enough trying to get the right amount of notebooks and everything like that. You got 3 kids running around, 2 of which they were just, Nora was one of them, as you might.
Shout out to my BFF, Nora.
She was all over the place. I'm like, can you rein it in? Do I have to call Uncle James? Do we have to get you this under control? No. The school shopping, we're happy to do it. We do the Amazon lists, all that stuff. Teachers, shout out to you guys. Hope you had a great vacation. I'm sorry it's ending so soon for those where my kids are heading because Lord knows you guys need as much of a break as possible.
I'll piggyback off that real quick and just say that when it comes to how I was raised, my grandma was a teacher for as long as I knew her, honestly, my entire life. So, got a lot of respect for teachers. Just having a little fun there when it comes to the back-to-school list. But I think they did all right, making sure I got through school and making sure I had some decent level of knowledge where the periods and commas go, because I probably wouldn't be able to write if I didn't know how to spell and do what I do for a living. So shout out to all the educators out there.
All right. Shout out to them. And Mike Jones coming up in just about 10 minutes. Right now, though, quick morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Suave Men Refreshing Face and Body Wash on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Talked about it earlier. The most notable thing that happened last night in Indiana sports was IU beating Peru 115-36 on Tuesday night, and then they took care of Virgin Islands yesterday, 120-63. They dominated them over there, so they are representing the USA well. I don't know how much actual stuff they're gaining out there, but Vaughn Carvalho had a game high 32 points, 11-14 from shooting. Did you catch any of that game at all, or are you kind of I don't know what to make of any of this?
No chance. I just can't really get into the college basketball vibe just yet, but I am excited to see this revamped IU squad and to see if they can sort of redeem themselves after Darren DeVries in his first year down there in Bloomington not really going as planned.
Yeah, so they play again tomorrow afternoon. Purdue out in Vancouver. They play tomorrow night, so a lot of stuff going on there. If you want to get your college basketball swerve on, you have to probably find it on an illegal YouTube stream or something like that. But it is available if you so choose. Adam Vinatieri heading to the Pro Football Hall of Fame selected Carly Ursay-Gordon to induct him. So, again, I feel like that has to be a record as far as ownership being asked to induct players from a franchise, because I feel like Jim Ursay did it quite a few times for his own guys, and now Carly getting the nod from Adam Vinatieri as well.
The only other owner that I saw that might be up there as far as players having them present them into the Hall of Fame was Al Davis, the legendary Raiders coach from back in the day. But nevertheless, whenever you have those players who view you as family and want you to be a part of the biggest moment often of their athletic career, that is pretty cool stuff, and it speaks to the relationship that Ursay and now Ursay-Gordon has had with the players.
Fever out in Chicago for the WNBA All-Star break. That takes place tomorrow night at 8:30. Three-point competition. No Fever players involved in that. That is tonight, I believe, and everything. But Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, all out there. They'll play three starters, but on two separate teams.
Exactly. So I think you got Caitlin and Aaliyah on one squad, and then Kelsey's on the other team. It's basically like a pickup game if you go play basketball with your friends. They don't do it East and West, which I wish they would. But nevertheless, representation galore for Indiana Fever, and they have earned it with how they've played, especially as of late. Won 5 of their last 6 going into the All-Star break, and then when they come back, 6 of their last 17 games are at home because they will be road warriors mostly the rest of the way.
It was a slow night in baseball. The Indianapolis Indians fell to Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs 3-1. Cubs visit the Pirates this weekend. White Sox host the Astros. Reds out in St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. And, of course, Brickyard 400 in our backyard at the IMS. So plenty of action over at the track if you want to see cars out there. Plenty going on over there as well. Mike Jones of The Athletic, he had an interesting underrated, overrated content column about the Colts. Where did they fall in that column? We'll talk to him next. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
We are tracking another pleasant day with partly sunny skies and a high near 80 degrees this afternoon. And for tonight, decreasing cloud cover and mild with a low of 60. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
Hey, it's Mark. I'm not sure if you've looked outside. It's been cool this week, but next week, not so much. We've got some issues going on as far as what is going on outside, and you need to make sure inside is nice and cozy. And that's when you need to call the folks at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. If you're having any questions at all, do it. I did. Give them a call today, 317-353-2141. Or online, love-hvac.com. I needed a full-blown replacement a few years ago. They took out my 20-year-old system, replaced it with a brand-new Heil system, and we have loved it ever since. No issues whatsoever. We're knocking off those dollars on the monthly bill as well because of its energy efficiency. They can do the same for you. Maybe you just need a tune-up. They can take care of that as well. John and Chris love their fourth-generation owners. They'll make sure you're a satisfied customer, just like the Dykton household is. Plus, Love Heating Air Conditioning, family-owned and operated for over a century. That's how long they've been serving Indianapolis and Central Indiana. That number again, 317-353-2141 or online, love-hvac.com.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
Thank you all for joining us here on this Friday morning as we get you set for the weekend. I, of course, am James Boyd, joined by Mark Dyton in the co-host chair this morning, and Christian Oates on the ones and twos. Mark, how you like taking Kevin's job for the day?
Easy peasy. I should have put my face over his because I feel like he's looking over my shoulder constantly with this TV behind me.
So he might be, haunting you right now, making sure you stay in your best behavior and checking that.
He is awake.
Internet.
He's texting us, so he's alive and well. He hasn't said whether he's going to race James in the 40 yet out at Westfield, but
no, he's getting smoked.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that
I got
at
to
all.
get my get back somehow.
I saw how he ate that chicken Caesar wrap yesterday. I know he's not beating you in the 40.
Like I'm telling you, the golf swing, I need a lot of work there. But as far as the 40-yard dash form, I think I might be all right. And with that, I will head to the Payless. No, I'm sorry, not Payless Tickets hotline. We don't have a sponsor anymore. I'm sorry.
Sponsorship open if anybody wants it, though.
We'll
Come
go to
get
the
it.
guest line.
Come get some.
For Mike Jones, my colleague over at The Athletic, national sports writer, covers the NFL for us. Mike, I know you get it all the time. You know, the Mike Jones, but how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
You know, when I sent your name in our little group text for the show, I immediately got the who in response. And I'm like, okay, you've probably heard that your entire life, correct?
Since like 97, 98, something like that, maybe. It's been a while. It feels like all my life. But, everybody has fun with it. So, hey, it could be a lot worse.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's going to get phased out because I'm like, I don't know if the younger generation really knows who Mike Jones is anymore, but I do. But as far as the real life Mike Jones, I appreciate you stopping by the show. Mike, I'll start with your piece in The Athletic, kind of highlighting the most underrated or overrated teams. You had the Colts on your underrated side. So what stands out to you about this group that makes you think they could maybe perhaps surprise some people?
They didn't finish the way they wanted to, but if you look at them, the core of this team, they still have a lot of pieces. They got Daniel Jones back. They're hoping he can pick up where he left off. I think they had a good draft as well, getting some potential difference makers on defense to help them there. And so, Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, talented defense to give them the backup, a strong offensive line. I think that they really could make some noise. The AFC South is wide open. Yes, Jacksonville had a good year last year, and Houston continually makes to the playoffs. They kind of get the yips when they get to the playoffs, at least CJ Stroud anyway. But I think the door is open there for the Colts to really challenge for that divisional title.
So Mike Jones joining us from The Athletic. Does that mean, as far as underrated, do you have them in the playoff hunt as far as that? Or do you think they'll just be contenders in the AFC South, but eventually cede to like the Texans or the Jaguars?
No, I think they can be in the playoff hunt. I mean, look, if last year, remember, they were right up there with one of the most prolific offenses. They were really hot. Daniel Jones unfortunately got hurt, and then things went south there. But if they can stay healthy, I think that they can, contend for the division title and then make the playoffs. And, once you get there, if you have a good defense, you have a strong run game, it tends to help you pretty well. I'm not saying that they'll go, all the way to the Super Bowl, but I think that they could definitely see them as a playoff team.
What are your thoughts on Shane Steichen as a coach? We talked about it earlier. He's viewed as probably one of the more underrated play callers in the league. But as a head coach, how do you find him in the league?
From everything I gather, talking to people, he's well respected. He gets a lot out of his players. Last year they didn't, have the success, the finish that they were hoping for, but he has definitely had that team trending in the right direction. And I think that that's probably a big reason why Jonathan Gannon got fired. They were both hired the same year, Gannon in Arizona, Steichen in Indianapolis. And you've seen the growth of the Colts and them always, kind of being in the thick of things. And that put pressure, I think, on Gannon in Arizona, and he was never able to get them, headed in the right direction, and they made a change. So Steichen, like you said, a talented play caller. It seems like a leader, good motivator for his team.
Mike, I know we've talked a lot about quarterback play throughout the years, and I feel like every year I see you, you're like, is this the year that the Colts finally figure it out? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And for half a season last year, they did kind of figure it out. Daniel Jones was rolling, and then the Achilles injuries happens. So all that to say, when week one starts, the expectation is that he'll be out there. He's told us he's already been cleared for everything, and now it's all about just, I guess, sharpening his Achilles and not really thinking about it as he plays. But what do you think is a realistic expectation for what he could look like being just 9 months removed from Achilles surgery? And I get it. Like, the technology is better than it was 20 years ago, but it's still probably one of the more devastating injuries to try to come back from in sports.
Yeah, I think, and it's amazing that these guys are coming back as soon as they are. I mean, I remember it was 2013. I was covering Washington, and D'Angelo Hall tore his Achilles, and it was a full year before he was back. These guys are coming back in less than a calendar year, but I think that the Colts have to be smart. They can't put everything on him. I think they need to really lean into their run game, rely on their defense to get him off the field and get him in favorable positions, and kind of almost not starting all over with Daniel Jones, but they didn't ask him to do a whole lot or play beyond his skill level. And so I think you have to do that as you're breaking him back in there. If they have that balance on offense, then it opens up so much. And then I think that he can continue to build back to where he was.
Mike Jones of The Athletic joining us right now on the hotline. All right, they paid Daniel Jones. They paid Alec Pierce. They made the Sauce Gardner trade. They saw one of the highest of highs in the first half of the season, saw the lowest of lows last season. And then Carly Ursay-Gordon has said that this is a higher sense of urgency season. Mike, that means what to you?
I mean, it means that they've got to get to the playoffs, and I think they need to get a win. Yes, getting to the playoffs will help, but the pressure is definitely there. Eventually, just being in contention, being in the hunt for the playoffs isn't enough. You have to get there. You have to pick up a couple wins because, owners get impatient, fans get impatient, and, you have to actually do something because it's not just enough to show up. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that Shane Steichen's going to be gone if they don't get to the playoffs or they don't get a playoff win, but the expectations are, okay, hey, we know that we can contend, we know we can win games, but we have to do it when it really matters.
Again, that is the voice of Mike Jones, national NFL reporter for us at The Athletic. Mike, looking at it from a big picture standpoint and kind of stepping away from the Colts for a moment, we saw this sort of social media initiative from a lot of players recently when it comes to the grass versus turf debate that seemingly never ceases in the NFL. And I guess it really got a jolt of just conversation because of the World Cup and all these fields that people have claimed, oh, we can't put grass down or we can't afford it or whatever the case may be. They put it down for these world-class soccer players, and now NFL players like the same. So do you think that it seems like an annual conversation. Is this different this time? Will there be any movement, and where do things kind of stand on that part of the conversation?
I don't think there's going to be movement. We've seen the social media campaign that a number of the players are tried to launch and point out. And yeah, they were definitely bothered by the fact that these owners were happy to lay down real grass for international soccer players when they wouldn't do it for themselves. The NFL owners and the NFL, they have their whole field safety committee that studies and compares, and they're always looking for, improvements to turf and grass playing surfaces to make sure they minimize injuries and have the fields hold up. And they continue to say that their studies reveal that the difference between injuries on grass and injuries on turf is so minuscule. And so because of that, until they turn something up, I think that the owners will just continue to point to that and say, nah, we're good. Now look, say they get in negotiations with this new CBA and the players are not bending and the owners definitely want the 18th game. Would the owners say, hey, you want grass? Okay, then give us the 18th game. I'm not saying that would be a bargaining chip, but that's one way that maybe if it's something like that, the owners are like, hey, we're determined we're going to get this 18th game. But from everything that I've been told, the owners don't see this as a serious thing because they point to the data of their research. Now, players will tell you, hey, I know what my knees feel like. I know what my
Right.
body feels like when I've played on turf and when I've played on grass. But the owners, the data, showing, whether it's more ACLs on turf than grass, it doesn't compute what they tell us anyway. And because of that, they'll do what they can to save money instead of having to pay to put down multiple grass fields every year.
The Athletics' Mike Jones with us for another minute or so. Mike, the Seahawks and Patriots, I would say, were teams that no one really expected to make the Super Bowl last year, but they did. Do you have a surprise team in your mind that we should be focused in on as training camps get underway?
I don't know about surprise, but I'm a little bit intrigued by Cincinnati. They have, ever since they made the Super Bowl, 4 years ago, they have not made it back to the playoffs. And, they've had injuries here and there, or they've had a terrible defense. They finally invested in their defense. They've worked on the offensive line. If they can stay healthy, I think that they're a team that maybe could make some noise. In talking to people around the league, they say that their depth now on defense is better than what it was the year they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Rams. So we'll see. Joe Burrow, obviously there's pressure there. Clock is ticking. They have to, to get something going, or Zach Taylor could be gone. And so I think that they're a team that we could look at. We'll see what happens. The NFC South is wide open. I don't know if that window's closing for Tampa, but Atlanta and the Saints are a team that I think that I find interesting. They're not exciting, the Saints, but Kellen Moore had them improving down the second half of the season, and so maybe they're a team that could kind of come out of go nowhere. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, but definitely make some noise.
Mike, I appreciate the time, brother. I will see you probably later this year when we're in leaky Jacksonville Jaguars press box. I feel like that's usually when I see you annually.
So.
And so, stay dry until then, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your summer, your short summer, because we got training camp starting up for all the teams next week, and I'll see you soon.
All right, thanks for having me. I'll see you.
Again, that is Mike Jones from The Athletic, one of our national reporters. Thought he had, honestly, Mark, what we've talked about, a very honest answer when it comes to turf versus grass. The owners look at this and laugh, and they say, okay, well, you did this, 2 years ago or last year, and we just played the games, and everyone shut up about it eventually.
Yeah. That seems to be where it's going, where money's talking, and I don't know how much is actually going to change, but it is interesting there. Also, the Bengals, they had made some moves on defense. So they are a sneaky team that could go under the radar a little bit, but that AFC South or the AFC North, I feel like just still goes through Baltimore. But we'll see. It could be. Who knows? I don't know.
The Bengals are just too cheap to win. That's kind of where I'm at. I still just can't picture a team that has their players walk across the street in their cleats winning an actual Super Bowl. Sorry.
I know. They kind of give off like Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim vibes, where like Joe Burrow's the Mike Trout, where he's very good. He's just stuck right now in Cincinnati.
I know. Plenty
more conversation to get into. Plenty of football talk still coming your way on this Friday morning. It is the Fan Morning Show. Mark Dykton, James Boyd, Christian Oates, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This speech is my recital. I think it's very vital to rock around. That's right, on time.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
This is a song that gets going on a Friday morning. Love me some Run DMC. So shout out to Christian for playing that one right there. I'm Mark in for Kevin today as he's taking a staycation day. James Boyd alongside me. Thanks to Greg Ragstra and Mike Jones joining us earlier in the show. Had a little bit of an off-the-wall topic I wanted to throw your way. Got me thinking yesterday. Had a lot of sports reunions as of late. We saw Patrick King go back to the Blackhawks yesterday. We've seen Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley make amends after their years of, franchise being disinterested in each other. Hell, Aaron Rodgers made amends with his family. There's sports reunions going on all over the place. Sammy Sosa back with the Cubs. If you want to go wrestling, CM Punk back at WWE. What is a sports reunion we haven't seen yet that you would like to see?
Oh, that's a good one. A sports reunion I would like to see that we haven't seen.
I have one.
Okay, I'll let you go first. Let me
so you can marinate a little bit.
Okay.
Peyton Manning and the Colts.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because I would
expand
say
that a little bit.
Well, Peyton Manning, obviously, he's got a statue out in front of Lucas Oil Stadium. But he's not really present around here. Like, he's here when, I'm sure he'll be here, when they do a Ring of Honor again, possibly one of his teammates or something like that. But as far as, just being present in Indy, he hasn't really been there. He's been more at, Denver Nuggets games, along with the Broncos and all that stuff. I would like to see a Peyton Manning Colts reunion where he's, he hasn't even done a Manning cast for Colts games and everything. So I don't think I don't want to say there's a rift, but there's something going on because, again, Eli's done plenty of Giants games on Manning casts, and the Colts have very rarely had the opportunity to be on Manning casts. But when they do, lo and behold, there's no Manning cast going on. So I don't know if there's actually something there, but I guess I would like to see Peyton Manning on courtside at a Pacers playoff game or just present at a Fever game or something like that. I would like to see a Peyton Manning in Indy a little bit more than I've been seeing lately. So that is a reunion I would like to see.
Man, that's a good one. I'll go with...
Do you disagree that there's something possibly there?
It seems like he loves Denver more than he loves Indianapolis.
It sure seems that way.
And I don't want to...
And I don't blame him because Denver is very, very nice. But, hey, Indy's got some stuff going on here, too.
You the man here, man.
There's a statue over here,
You won
Peyton.
4 of your 5 MVPs here.
Mm-hmm.
You won a Super Bowl here. So I get you won one with the Broncos as well, but you weren't Peyton Manning at that point. You were just along for the ride, quite frankly, that last year. I'll stick with the Colts thing, and I'll say, I'm not saying that this is contentious at all, but Bob Sanders.
Yes.
I need Bob Sanders to be back with this team getting inducted into the Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is one of the best defensive backs, to play in the NFL. And I get that his prime was short. I want to say he might have had 3 Pro Bowl seasons, but how many defensive backs can you name that have won a Super Bowl and also won a Defensive Player of the Year? I don't think that they win a Super Bowl without him playing at an elite level and putting his body on the line for this franchise. So I would love for the Colts to not make things right because they're not wrong right now, but just do right by him and make sure that he gets the proper recognition by going to the Ring of Honor. He's not going to go to the Hall of Fame. His prime wasn't long enough, but boy, he was a special, special player for the Horseshoe.
So what's a sports reunion you'd like to see? 317-239-1070 on the text line or on the phones. Jake chimes in and says, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Oh boy, you want to talk about one that's got some heavy lifting going on. Have you heard what Scottie's been saying about Michael Jordan throughout the years and whatnot?
Yeah,
good Lord.
That one is really weird. I just don't understand what the heck Scottie is up to nowadays. Some of the stuff even he tweets, I'm just like, are you a real person? He's an interesting character because he goes back and forth with some of his MJ takes. He's the GOAT one day, then he's not. LeBron's not as good, then the next day he is as good. I just don't understand Scottie. He flip-flops a lot. So, yeah, I guess it's one that definitely comes to mind.
Yeah, so if it doesn't have to be Indy-related, if there's an overarching sports reunion you'd like to see, let me know. Let us know. 317-239-1070. Boy, yeah. Scottie said some stuff about Michael Jordan and the dynasty run by the Bulls in general that I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing, but, watch out there. Plenty more to dive into. We've got another hour to go before we get out of here on this Friday. More Colts conversation. Fever at the All-Star break out in Chicago. Brickyard 400 right in our backyard. Plenty more on the way. James Boyd, Mark Dykton, Christian Notes, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
No Kevin Bowen today. It's yours truly, Mark Dykman and James Boyd. Christian Oates filling in for me on the producer side of things. Some interesting conversations happening. Discussed it before the break. A sports reunion you'd like to see. I mentioned how we've seen Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan make amends. Saw Patrick King go back to the Blackhawks yesterday. Seen Sammy Sosa go back to the Cubs. CM Punk back to WWE. And we've seen even Aaron Rodgers make amends with his family. Boy, those pictures brought a tear to my eye. I was so happy to see Aaron Rodgers and his family finally back together. His brother conveniently missing, though, so I don't know if it's a full family reunion there. But I digress. We got some interesting responses, though, from people discussing the reunions that they would like to see. Big one, Bob Sanders is one you mentioned. That's another one. Yes, I agree. He is a fan favorite. While his career wasn't as long as I think a lot of people had hoped, he made such an impact that he is a fan favorite. Bob Sanders back in Lucas Oil would be great to see. A couple people have thrown out Jermaine O'Neal with the Pacers.
Yeah.
He made an appearance during their playoff run, but I said more J.O. in Gainbridge, more better. Some people would like to see his number retired in the rafters. I would like to see more Jermaine O'Neal outside of just the playoffs. Let's see like a Jermaine O'Neal appreciation night or something like that. That would be great to see. Steve Bartman and the Cubs. That's a great one from one Cubs fan to another.
Really trying to heal some wounds there.
Heal some wounds, but I also think that guy got so much crap for no reason because he did something that everyone else would have done in that same situation, and he had to live his life in privacy. And while I think that maybe the Cubs have made some attempts to get him to like do a first pitch or something, kind of show like, amends, I think he's also just like so scarred. He's like, no, I want my private life, and I'm going to keep it that way.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. That was a horrible situation. It was one of the worst moments of my Cubs fandom life, but that guy also got so much hell for it for no reason, so I don't really see that one changing anytime soon. We had the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen reunion. I found another one, but now I lost it. But there's been some interesting ones. So a sports reunion you'd like to see. Christian, do you have one off the top of your head that you can think of?
I feel like it's kind of reversed, but have the Colts fans reunited with Andrew Luck in a positive way since
that's a good one.
Left.
Ooh, okay.
That is a good one because while I think it's a minority that feel that way, it is a very vocal minority that are still angry that they always say that he didn't retire, he quit on the team.
Yeah.
So we've heard that. I mean, even when we had the Andrew Luck topic on What If, that was a popular. Why are you talking about this quitter? So there's still people that I don't think will ever get over it. And everything, I get it. The proximity to the start of the regular season to when he announced it was not ideal.
Yeah.
But if your heart's not in it, do you really want a guy that's not really in it for the whole season? Probably not.
Mark, I think the only way that Andrew Luck and really the fans of him that are still mad that he walked away can get closure is when the Colts find a quarterback that no longer makes you miss him.
Yeah. Yeah. The people were impressed by the montage I did with all the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They're also pissed off. Like, man, that brought up back
a lot of them, man.
That was a lot. Even Joel A. Erickson after the show, he's like, that was way more than I remember. I'm like, yeah, when they happen all at once, I was like, I think I counted 13, which is crazy. But yeah, I think once they find their solution at quarterback, which maybe that's Daniel Jones, maybe that's the next quarterback, who knows when it is. When wounds start healing, you'll see number 12 back out there at Lucas Oil Stadium or like a Andrew Luck bobblehead day or something at one of the regular season games. So keep them coming, 317-239-1070. We'll look forward to your sports reunions.
So I know we had talked earlier, Mark, about my most indispensable Colts. You can check that out at theathletic.com. I did 5 offense, 5 defense. One of the guys I had on defense is, I think, an unsung hero for this group, Grover Stewart. I know we talk a lot about the defensive tackles and namely DeForest Buckner. Like, is he going to be at all-pro level? And he often draws all the double teams and puts a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Grover, as the guy who's more the run stopper, is very underrated for what he does for that group because you never really have to worry about the other team running it straight at you. And I just wonder, Mark, again, with this group trying to win now, can he still maintain a certain level of play to ensure that this defense that has so many question marks doesn't have another question mark at his position?
Yeah, and it's a great one for him, too, because he's an unsung hero. He kind of goes under the radar, which is a good thing for, usually if you're getting your name called, you're either having a great game or you're doing a lot of screw ups. And he's always very steady handed, where he's not necessarily making all the big plays all the time, but he's also not screwing up. He's not putting you in an unfair disadvantage or anything like that. He's also entering the last year of his contract. So
good point, yeah.
He's looking for probably another payday. He's 32 years old, so he's on the other side of 30. He's probably got one more contract in him. Probably a short-term deal, I would imagine, if it's not with the Colts.
Yeah, and who's to say it's here?
Right.
So
right, like he's one of those guys where I've talked about it a couple times, where we've seen some changes, Michael Pittman Jr. and whatnot this year. Next year could be a lot of changes because it's Grover Stewart, it's DeForest Buckner, it's Quentin Nelson, it's Jonathan Taylor, all up for contracts. I don't know if he can pay everybody. Grover Stewart, though, entering contract year, if he wants to get one more payday, you got to think he's going to try to give it his all as best he can. So I totally agree with you. Like, indispensable because of what he brings to the table, but also he wants to have a pretty damn good year himself because he wants to get one more payday.
That's a good point. And now you kind of lead me to this question that I was having yesterday with my editor about this list. So again, for listeners out there, here are my top 5 most indispensable Colts offensive players. Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Bernard Ryman, Alec Pierce, Quentin Nelson. Defense, Laiatu Latu, Sauce Gardner, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Cam Bynum, who I kind of snuck in there. I do think that considering he's your only safety on the roster that has a lot of experience starting in recent years, he's very valuable to the back end of your defense. But as I look at this list, Mark, and as you kind of perhaps look at it yourself, of these 10 players, how many will not be Colts next season?
Oh boy, yeah. Let's see. Like I said, I even just when we saw that Alec Pierce went up on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium, I was like, how many of those 4 are going to be here 2 years from now?
Yeah, good point.
That's a lot of changes. I mean, again, I don't think you can pay everybody, and you don't have a first round pick again.
Quentin's going to be a free agent. JT's going to be a free agent. DeForest, I think, is going to be a free agent. Grover Stewart's going to be a free agent. That's 4 out of your 10 on this list.
I know. Boy, I'm going to split it down the middle. I'm going to say 2. 2 of the 4 are going to be gone.
Dare I ask you which 2? Because I think that
who'll be gone?
Yeah, I went with DeForest Buckner. I'm not afraid to say that, his best years are probably behind him. The neck injury, we'll see how he looks in training camp in this season. But if he isn't like the Pro Bowl borderline player that he's been, I don't understand why the Colts would necessarily invest more money into him on top of the fact that he's getting older and less durable. Even though he's been a great player for this team, great leader, all of those things. But at some point, you do have to kind of look at Father Time and say, maybe it is time to move on.
I'm going to say the 2 defensive guys, the ones that get waved goodbye, Buckner and Stewart.
Ooh, okay.
Unless Stewart is coming back on a team-friendly deal. But again, he's on the other side of 30. He probably wants one last payday. I don't know if he's getting that team-friendly. He's giving that team-friendly discount. Jonathan Taylor, it seems like they're going to give him a 3rd contract. And Quentin Nelson is an all-pro guard. I can't imagine them waving goodbye to him.
Yeah, I think if Quentin walks into the office and says, give me this number, you probably just say yes. Now
he'll intimidate you. You're like, okay, more zeros, sir, whatever you want. Yes, okay, don't hurt me.
Now, the conversation around the extensions or lack thereof that we've seen so far with the Colts is, okay, does Chris Ballard even have the green light to do that?
Right.
Considering that he's in a contract year himself, the final year of his deal.
It's such a weird year heading into this. Is such a weird year.
I know. And so
there's
we're
so
going
many unknowns.
into,
there's so many contracts up. So many don't know who's in charge necessarily.
Yeah, I was going through like Kevin's list of 53 questions, and we'll probably
58, whatever it ended up being.
Yeah, he's a little overachiever.
My man
there.
can't count.
Yeah, he comes from the educational household, so he's always going to do the extra credit, which I probably should have did more of myself back in the day. But all that to say, when we talk to Chris Ballard on Tuesday of next week, I believe, then jokingly I say this, but kind of seriously I kind of say it as well. We will try to ask him all 53 of those questions because there's so much to kind of unpack. A lot of it is redundant. I do kind of feel like, man, I could probably pre-write what he's going to say right now when it comes to the expectations, the pressure, trying to make the playoffs. Does he feel like any different this year than in years past? Like, we've asked these same questions the last 3, 4, 5 years. But to me, what adds a different blend of quote unquote urgency, to reference Carly Gordon, it's the fact that Chris Ballard himself is not guaranteed to be back here next year. And I know people are probably rolling their eyes like, well, he's always had the ninth life and he just survives anything. Yes, but that's also because he's had multiple years left on his deal, whereas now I do think it's probably do or die. And when I say do make the playoffs, and if he really wants to be safe, you got to win a playoff game.
Do you think he'll be asked that question? I'm asking you because you could obviously ask this question. Does he have the capacity to give out extensions?
Oh, yes. Trust me. I haven't sat down and done like my formal list of questions. And actually, I do like when I get a chance to ask the public, whether it's here on the radio or on social media, like, hey, what things are on your mind? Because sometimes I do think I can get like a blind spot or tunnel vision when it comes to, okay, I know I have to ask this, and this. But the fans often offer some good perspectives as well. But yes, that is certainly one on my list, Mark, just because.
How do you think he'll answer? Yes, James, of course. I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't do this job if I didn't have it.
Oh, Carly Gordon gives me plenty of opportunity to do my job. But as we know, actions speak louder than words. And we'll get into all of the potential, not drama, but newsy things next week, because beyond the health thing, when it comes to Alec Pierce, DeForest Buckner, and a few others, Daniel Jones, we can always use another update on his Achilles. But I'm curious to just see contract-wise, like we talked about, JT. Of all the players we talked about, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs, Grover Stewart, Quentin Nelson, the one player I think that has the most leverage to say, pay me now, it is Jonathan Taylor. I don't think Quentin Nelson has like the personality to go in there and be like,
huffing and puffing.
Yeah, I just don't really get that from him. But JT, if he wants to get that, talk about last payday for Grover Stewart, how many running backs get paid after their 27 season?
Right.
Age 27 season.
How many get a third contract with the same team? Not too many.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was you kind of led me down. The next thought was like, you know how you can quell whether or not you have the capacity to hand out extensions? Is if Jonathan Taylor signs an extension right before camp gets underway. Now, will that happen? I don't know. My also question was, if we don't see that, are we going to get black hoodie Jonathan Taylor? Are we going to get holdout Jonathan Taylor? Because, like I said, it's kind of been smooth sailing for the Colts as far as like off season and everything like that. Like people don't really know what to make of it. Well, you want to talk about drama? If all of a sudden your star running back's like, yeah, I am going to hold your head over the water now. I want that contract and I want it now. Oh boy.
Well, I did write last week that, it's been a quiet offseason, let's ruffle some feathers, and people were like, you're not JT's agent. I am not. But if I was in his shoes, I know I wouldn't just show up willy-nilly and ready to go. I'd probably try to dig my heels in a little bit to see just the temperature of trying to get a new deal, because athletes and I'm not saying they're not very privileged as it is. They make a lot of money, but you have a finite time to make money, especially at that position. And for a guy who's delivered on his previous deal with back-to-back 1,400-yard seasons, led the league in touchdowns last year as a running back, those things, if I'm in his shoes, are why I would need to be rewarded.
And a man you're demanding a lot of to run your offense. Because, we saw when he's cooking, he's like almost unstoppable. We saw how many 3 touchdown games he put up in the first half of last season. He cooled down, obviously. But you take Jonathan Taylor off this offense, oh boy.
There you have it.
That's very one-dimensional. So, yeah, I don't – boy, if we get a holdout again, I can't imagine Carly and Jonathan Taylor on the tour bus trying to discuss contracts or something like that.
I think it might go down a little bit differently, Mark, for sure. To pivot the conversation a little bit away from the Colts real quick, I do want to mention, hey, All-Star Weekend is here for the WNBA. I thought Indianapolis did a great job hosting, was it last year? For the All-Star Weekend for Indianapolis? Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed myself there in Chicago this year, right up the road. And so not a long travel for our 3 Indiana Fever All-Stars, led by Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston. So we'll probably hear from them later today. I think they have like some practice and media availability and stuff like that. I wouldn't hold my breath on anything like groundbreaking being said, but they should all be in Chicago. And tonight is the 3-point contest, which none of them are participating in.
Well, neither is like Sabrina Ionescu either. And so it's like there's a lot of star power lacking in the 3-point contest, which is kind of like, it's disappointing because the WNBA is on this, new tier now. Yeah. You kind of like to see the stars, show out a little bit.
Yeah, but again, we get into the whole like who got invited, who didn't. Like WNBA can never do anything right, it seems like, when it comes to logistics or optics. But nevertheless, All-Star Weekend starts tonight with the three-point contest and the skills challenge, and then you got the All-Star game tomorrow for the Fever Trio. I'm curious, actually, jokes aside, to see how much they actually play, because for Caitlin, I'm thinking, hey, you've been dealing with this back thing pretty much all year. I put you out there for about 5 minutes, chuck some threes and,
wave to the crowd,
kiss some babies, and then you go sit down and get ready for the second half of the season, because it does come at you kind of fast. They'll practice Sunday. I don't think Caitlin and company will have to come in and actually practice super hard. They try to just be there. I mean, I've seen it happen in years past where they'll return mark from the All-Star break, and then the players themselves don't have to do a whole lot. It's just kind of like okay, well, this group has been in the basketball setting the last couple of days. We'll let them rest, but the rest of you guys have probably been on the beach somewhere. Let's get up and running. Let's get moving. And then they hit the ground running in Seattle on the road Tuesday. So a very
quick
turnaround.
turnaround, by the way.
Yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
short All-Star break.
Yeah, so if you are an All-Star, in a way, I always thought about this, Mark, I probably would show up if I'm an All-Star, because the fans voted me as such, and the players, show me that respect, and the coaches. But it's almost like if you're an All-Star, you don't really get the All-Star break.
No.
Because you have so much stuff you have to do that's mandated by the WNBA. So
it
we'll
should be
see what it
called
brings.
All-Star break, because the All-Stars don't get the break. It's all the non-All-Stars that get the break. Everybody else gets to kick their feet up.
Exactly. Sophie Cunningham told us, hey, since the WNBA did not choose me for the three-point contest, which personally, James Boyd, me, not her, I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
She didn't say that, but I will say it for her. I think it's very stupid to not have one of, if not the most popular role player in the WNBA in this event. If stars are not going to be in it, put her in it. That would make some people tune in. And so she told us that she's going to be on a boat, which I don't blame her. Find you a boat, find you some sand somewhere, enjoy yourself, because we know the not chaos, but the pressure cooker will kind of heat up again for the Fever. They've kind of made it through all the chaos, I think, so far this season. There's probably a little bit lingering with oh my God, if Caitlin Clark gets a tech and she gets suspended for a game, that'll come with some conversation, I'm sure. But overall, they're doing fine, playing good basketball going into the break, and I'm excited to see what happens after the All-Star break when things start getting real.
Yeah, it's put up or shut up time. Like you said, you went over this second half schedule. 6 home games left in the second half of the season. So they got to make hay where they can, and they have a tough schedule on the way. So we'll get more into that. Still a little bit more time before we get out of here for the weekend, but right now let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Talked about the All-Star break for the WNBA. I'm going to catch that at 8 o'clock on tomorrow night. So we'll see how much play the Fever players do get out there on the court internationally. IU represented the United States as they trounced the Virgin Islands 120-63. Vaughn Carvalho had 32 points, and now they get ready for their next round. That is tomorrow afternoon, possibly for the championship. I believe that's on Monday. And then Purdue out in Vancouver to play their game as well. Again, I don't know how much to put in any stock in any of this. Seems like spring games for football, basically. Yeah. You're just playing a bunch of Division III teams and whatnot. But good for them getting some run. I'm sure the YouTube streams and whatnot to try to watch those games hit and miss.
They might be like your browsing history, hit and miss. You know,
more miss than hit usually in that case.
But yeah, shout out to IU for their international trip, and I am excited for Marcus Burton in particular. I had a chance to see him play in high school, Mark, and that kid was special at Penn, and now he goes from Notre Dame, one in-state school to another at IU, and I think that's an automatic upgrade at point guard for that program. So we'll see if it leads to that elusive NCAA tournament berth that really hasn't been a consistent thing down there in Bloomington.
Brickyard 400 out at the IMS. The race itself takes place on Sunday afternoon, but before that, we've got NASCAR practice a little bit later on today, so that's taking place over at the IMS. The Pennzoil 250 is a little bit later as well, and of course, Brickyard 400 and all that going on these next few days. Saturday is the Pennzoil 250 is on Saturday, and then Brickyard 400 Sunday afternoon. So very much stuff going on at the IMS. When it's not May, there's still some action happening out there. So get on out there. If you haven't, again, plan accordingly because it is supposed to be a bit more toasty than it has been the last couple days. So the IMS is letting you know, hey, plan accordingly. Bring something aside from adult beverages out. Some H2O would not hurt you in the long run. Baseball-wise, slow night. Indians fell to Lehigh Valley 3-1 over at Victory Field. Of course, Paw Patrol and Marvel nights coming up. Make sure you head out for that and get yourself a beer bet while you're at it. Pirates hosting the Cubs. White Sox hosting the Astros. Reds out in St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. Anything else going on? I can't really think of too much else outside of Diego Pavia got waived by the Ravens. So if you care much about that, that's going on. But outside of that, not a ton going on sports-wise. But it's the last gasp before training camp.
Yeah, and so I did see Fernando Mendoza signed his deal officially, Mark, with the Raiders, and I think it's something crazy like $57 million fully guaranteed. What a great life he must be living. He's earned it.
You see him and Tyrese the other day with a picture?
I did see that. That was pretty cool, and I'm sure Indiana sports fans appreciate that overlap. But as far as our last gasp, yes, that's why Kevin Bowen is out. He's load managing already. Training camp isn't even here yet, but we'll have a bunch of remote shows next week over at Grand Park for the last training camp at Grand Park for now. So looking forward to that. And hopefully when we're away, Mark keeps his pants on in the studio.
Oh, I'm not promising anything. Last one that I noticed was free agent Tyreek Hill. Still says he has no power in his leg 10 months removed from surgery. So do you think we ever see Tyreek Hill on the football field again?
I do think we'll see him on the field again. I actually watched the video that he put out where he was kind of running around. He was mentioning, like, when he said no power, I think that he was kind of using hyperbole or kind of exaggerating it because you could clearly see him pushing off, trying to run. Just maybe not the same power he's had because we know he's such an explosive player. But because of the name, the resume, I do think when he becomes fully healthy, granted, he had a terrible knee injury, had multiple surgeries on it just about 10 months ago. But assuming that he can get like fully cleared, I wouldn't be surprised if a team takes a flyer on him and say, hey, just come in for, this workout and we'll put you on the practice squad or whatever the case may be and see what you got and bring you up for a game or two. I just don't see that teams would pass up on that level of explosiveness if there's any chance he could regain it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He was explosive. When he was at his peak, my God, he was impossible to stop. Brickyard 400 out at the IMS this weekend. Plenty of weather going on there. Let's get a quick weather update right now by Amber Hardwick.
We are tracking another pleasant day with partly sunny skies and a high near 80 degrees this afternoon. And for tonight, decreasing cloud cover and mild with a low of 60. I'm Fox 59 meteorologist Amber Hardwick for The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
We had our sports reunion conversation earlier in the show. Still getting a few more in. This has to be a Kevin Bowen burner. Live golfers returning to the PGA will be a sports reunion people would like to see. Any thoughts on? He wants Bryson back on the PGA so he can yell at him more
I
regularly.
don't think this is a Kevin Bowen thought.
Another one: Rick Mount and Purdue, Steve Alford and IU, Dusty May and IU. Those are all nice ones, but yeah,
I think Dusty May might be a little busy.
Yeah, I think that one you might have to wait a little bit on.
Coach Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving and crew down in Dallas. That's hilarious.
I know. But the Live Golfers PGA, that might be happening sooner than later, considering all the stuff we're hearing from
seriously.
Live Golf, because that looks. I mean, the Westfield event might be happening, but it looks like their season finale on life support, to say the least. I think they said 5% chance that that's happening, so that's not great. That's not ideal. 5% on anything isn't very good usually. I'll take 5% lottery odds, but outside of that, not great there. So, I don't know. Keep the sports reunions coming through. 17239-1070. We've talked a lot of Colts, talked a lot of Fever at the All-Star break. Where you want to go?
I'll go with this right here and kind of revisit the conversation we had earlier, Mark. I know a lot of the conversation right now with the Fever is about how well they've been playing. Best offense in WNBA history currently that they're on pace for. They seem to score over 100 points every night. They're averaging about 96 points a game, Mark. But as we talked about earlier, I do think this could be a make or break season for them because of their cap situation and like how it could all kind of play out. So for those who might not be as familiar, I am the nerd who went down this rabbit hole for you. The salary cap, and it's a hard salary cap in the WNBA, is $7 million, which means no team can pay total more than $7 million to roster their players. Now, that could probably go up a little bit next year depending on the money in the league and stuff like that. We see it happen all the time in the NFL and the NBA where the salary cap increases by a little bit because of the revenue brought in. I would assume that happens, especially with the amount of eyes Caitlin has brought in and company to this season in the WNBA. So let's just, for the sake of this argument, keep it at $7 million. Next year, Aaliyah Boston will make over $1 million. She's just got an extension this year. Supermax deal, she's not going anywhere. Caitlin Clark, she's not on a max deal right now, but she will be maxed out next year when she signs her extension. That's another $1 million player. So we're down to $5 million for your roster. Kelsey Mitchell, who's on a 1-year max deal currently, will be a free agent. Let's say you want to bring her back. She's having a hell of a season. Don't want her to leave. Got to pay her $1 million.
Yep.
That's $3 million for 3 players. You got $4 million left to round out the rest of your roster. And not to mention that a couple of these people have, I think, multi-year deals. Like I think Lexi Hall's on a multi-year deal. Mo Billings is on a multi-year deal. So the money gets dried up pretty quickly. And it just makes me wonder if the Fever will go all in still on their big 3 and say, you know what? We're not letting Kelsey leave. We're going to, retain her, give her a max deal, max out Caitlin, and just kind of throw in some pieces around him and hope that people want to play here for a chance to win a championship on like the vet minimum. Or do you let Kelsey walk in free agency and then you build around Caitlin and Aaliyah moving forward, and you might not have as much money, or you would have more money to add better role players, but not that third star. So it is, I think, a very nuanced conversation, but just one that comes to mind, Mark, about how this season there's a lot on the line. There always is. I think since Caitlin has arrived here, the expectations have certainly risen. But on top of that, I just think that, in my opinion, this is something that could be an interesting debate to have come the offseason. Like whenever this Fever season ends, the questions will be looming for this front office.
Yeah, like you said, $1 million players, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell this season. You had Caitlin Clark to the mix. That's 3. Currently, right now, you have 8 players making 6 figures. So that money dries up really quick.
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't have to be $1 million, but even like $500,000, all that. I mean, you're going to have to divvy that up even more. So they have a lot of questions. And like I said, I didn't really think too much about make or break. But when you started mentioning that, I'm like, boy, that puts a lot of pressure on what's coming up this second half of the season. Like you said, we've seen the offense be spectacular. We've seen the defense be atrocious at times. And they played down to their competition a lot. Also, we have the Caitlin Clark tech issues. So we've talked about the schedule. Only 6 home games left. They have a tougher schedule, 3 against the Minnesota Lynx. You want to talk about Caitlin Clark missing a couple of those games or all that stuff? That could be the difference of making the playoffs or sitting it out. And then that's really putting you behind the 8 ball, especially with all the roster turnover that you could be experiencing next season.
And that's the part, again, that it just adds so much on the plate of this season. I guess it's cool because we wouldn't be talking about it if this team wasn't doing great. We would be probably just saying just blow it up. Like right now for the Colts, we don't really have a lot of conversations about cap space and who stays and who goes because it's just like, well, they're kind of middling and we'll just see if they surprise us. Whereas with the Fever, I think they do have bona fide championship expectations. They weren't afraid to say that from day one of their own training camp. I know the Colts training camp starting up next week, but it is kind of an in-your-face topic, or not in-your-face topic, I'm sorry. It's like a back-of-mind topic that will be more in-your-face as we get closer to the end of the season and then inevitably that next opportunity to talk to the general manager, talk to the team president, and kind of see where the state of things are. But on a more positive note, they are up in Chicago right now. The Fever trio, Aaliyah, Caitlin, and Kelsey, all getting some love for being all-stars. This is the 4th straight year that Aaliyah and Kelsey have been all-stars, and the 3rd straight year for Caitlin, of course, who's only been in the league for 3 years. So pretty special group on top of, what they've already had in the past with Aaliyah kind of coming here first and joining Kelsey. Now with that trio of Caitlin joining the party, we've seen them flip their fortunes tremendously because, boy, I covered some bad Fever seasons, Mark, and now we're talking about trying to raise a trophy.
Yeah, and you want your stars to play like stars and your highest paid players to play like stars, and that's certainly what they have with all 3 of them out in Chicago. So good luck to all the ladies out there. And like you said, it's a quick turnaround. My God, practice on Sunday and then right back to game action on Tuesday. So not much of an all-star break at all. And hopefully, like I said, with the lull, the extent of this schedule is tough in the back half of the second half. You got to get to work and get to work quickly and keep those good vibes rolling. Because if we start seeing the defensive lapses we saw in some parts of the first half, that could be trouble, especially with the daunting task in front of you.
Very good point. Mark, are you ready to basically ensure that we have all our stuff fired up, ready to go Tuesday? First remote show from Grand Park?
Yes. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I think you guys are ready to go. Kevin on staycation today, but he should be, I hope he's packing the bag. He's probably got all his, was it sweat towels or whatever he was talking about?
Shower in a bag.
Shower in a bag. Boy, I don't know. He gave me one, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to use this, but we'll see. It says like you don't have to. It's just wet out of the bag. I don't know.
It's one of those things where it's like a chemical reaction. If you like slam it, and something pops, and then it like, I guess, gets wet, and then you use it.
I need to see him, and I need a visual walkthrough of him doing it and toweling himself
I also
off.
said I was reading the label. When I got it the other day, I went to Fever practice right after the show, and I was like, let me just see what this is about. Killing some time, and it says it's reusable, and that's why I might draw the line. I'm like, I don't know about reusing the shower in a bag might be a little on the nose for me, but
I don't know what's going to chase like listeners or players away from coming over to the show. But it'll be Kevin wiping himself off in a towel in a bag or James Boyd in a Snuggie in July.
Hey, don't hate on the Snuggie. I'm telling you, if it's brisk like it was this morning, if I walk outside and it's about 68, I might go back to the car and get the Snuggie until it's about 74.
What a pathetic display. That Kevin drying himself off and you in a Snuggie. I can't think of a worse pair look that would give the show.
Now, can I ask you this really quick? I know we got to hit a break here soon, but as someone with young children and someone who's been out to camp before, how disappointed are you that this is the last opportunity to have sort of this like setting at Grand Park? Because we've seen more and more teams just go to their own team facility and not have that ability to really like welcome fans before an official game. So how do you feel about that? Because whenever I'm out there and I do get a chance to maybe hang out before practice starts, it is a cool little like mini Colt city that offers you the chance to, like I said, run the 40-yard dash. There's a bunch of stuff for kids. You can get your, jersey, autograph, whatever the case may be. They even have like the Colts cheerleaders and a little band out there. It's fun, and I think I'm going to miss a lot of that.
Yeah, it's hugely disappointing because it's the cheapest and most all access you get as far as a fan, because NFL tickets are not cheap, and you can get in the door to Grand Park for under $10. Most of the days they're free, $5 to $10. will get you in. So yeah, you get the most access. You get player autographs, all that stuff, all the fun stuff. Grand Park's a phenomenal facility and everything. And just as a Bears fan, I've seen what's happened where they used to be in Bourbonnais and they draw thousands of fans, and now they've gone to Hallis Hall, and it's just a handful of fans that get the opportunity. They have a lottery system. Occasionally, it's season ticket holders that have been with the team for a long time. Maybe you win the lottery and go. But for the most part, this might be it for a lot of people to see the Colts in person ever for training camp, because Bears fans, most people can't see them anymore, and they've been at Hallis Hall for a few years now, and I can see that being the case for the Colts because, as you said, you've seen it, West 56th isn't the most spacious place, so there's only limited space for you guys as reporters. Now you're trying to fit some fans in. It's just going to be very limited access and very hard for fans to get in to see anything. So they will kind of live and die with what you, Kevin, and other Colts reporters are covering at training camp going forward after this year, because they won't be able to visually see it themselves. And that's disappointing. And I get it. That's the way the league is making money. And I know the money for Grand Park does go to Colts charities and all that stuff, which is a great thing. But it is disappointing from a fan perspective. The things are kind of, as we've seen with streaming services and everything like that, it's getting put behind a paywall and just being less accessible. And that's very disappointing.
Yeah, and that's why I do want to cherish these opportunities. So if you all do see us out there next week at Grand Park, feel free to stop by, say what's up, and, tell me to perhaps take my Snuggie off and tell Kevin not to pick up any clumps of grass that he claims are clumps of grass, and we think there might be something else.
God, that's grass clippings. I swear. I'm a Kevin. I'm in the studio, and I can tell you that ain't grass. So get your eyes checked. Yeah. So, I mean, just moments like that, those are some of my favorite shows, is being out at Grand Park amongst the fans, amongst the players, just kind of getting that smell of training camp and everything like that. It's going to be disappointing that this is the last hurrah. But they are one of the last holdouts for not having their own training camps and stuff. But either way, it is disappointing just from a fan perspective.
I know. So we got to hit a break. We will do it. Is it one final time or two?
One final time. I would love to do it two more. We can go till noon if we want, but I think Jake will kick us out of here.
Yeah, that is true. So one final time here on 107.5 The Fan. Thank you all for sticking with us.
Josie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. So many things that I want.
This is the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd.
I just want to use your love.
Friday on the Fan Morning Show, getting ready to close up shop, and the smell of Drakkar has entered the studio. Jake Query has arrived with his Switch watch.
I'm good.
His Swiss watch.
I'm still scarred by that, by the way.
The Vegemite?
Yes.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Worst taste thing I've ever had in my life.
Nah, I mean, it lingers a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It lingered for a while. Almost died.
You had to take the day off of work the next day.
That's how painful it was.
What shirt do you have on there, Mark?
The Indy All-Star game from last year.
It's a nice-looking shirt.
Well, thank you. Shout out to the
It's a little
shop.
odd that you'd be wearing an Indy shirt and I'm wearing a Chicago shirt.
I
but that's
know.
cool.
But you're wearing a good one. The White Sox having a great season so far.
I got to set my watch. I haven't worn this one in a while,
Oh.
so I have to set the time to it. You guys go carry on.
Are you on European time or American?
I am, yeah. No, this is a Swiss watch, which means it's only on Swiss time.
Yeah.
Can't move it. It's always stuck on neutral.
Is it sponsored by Husky Chocolate?
See what the... yeah. How about that Husky chocolate that sponsored Marcus Erickson and you couldn't buy it in the U.S.?
I know. And I wanted some too, and nope, can't get it.
Interesting marketing ploy there.
I looked at the shipping and handling. I was like, that's out of my pay grade.
Okay, fair enough. So what's going on this morning?
We're previewing Colts training camp, final dog days of summer before Colts training camp gets underway. Fever at the All-Star break, discussing whether or not this is a make-or-break season, because James made very good points that they are going to be kind of strapped when it comes to salary cap next season, with the likelihood of Caitlin Clark getting that $1 million bump. So you'd have Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Caitlin Clark making $3 million, and the salary cap is at $7 million. That doesn't leave much room to be desired to fill out the rest of your roster.
That is correct. I would agree that this is make or break is probably an extreme, but certainly it is. It kind of feels like the push all in year, right?
Yeah, maybe make or break, perhaps is an extreme term. But the way I kind of phrased it or looked at it and broke it down, Jake, is that this version of the Fever might not be the one we see next season. Like, there's a real possibility they either have the big three run it back and you have like no role players, or you have ones that are just taking the vet minimum for a chance to win a ring, or you let Kelsey Mitchell walk in free agency and you build around your younger stars and Aaliyah and Caitlin and hope that you can get some higher level role players. Because right now you look at even Sophie Cunningham's making $600,000 this year. They can't afford to bring everybody back making that kind of money, so we'll see.
When I was in high school, Mr. Moore, by the way, was the teacher. Last day of school, he took a photo of the entire class. He got all of our addresses. He took a photo, and he said, I'm taking this picture because this collection of people will never again simultaneously be in the same room. And then he waited a year and sent us all the photo. I think most people still have the picture, which is a cool concept. Sports teams are the same way, James, right? Yeah. I mean, at the end of each sports season, more often than not, you say, this team will never again have this exact complexion because even if it's on the auxiliary, faces change, right?
Yep, that is a conversation I have every year with some of the Colts players when they're leaving the locker room, especially with a roster that size. So we'll see what those changes could be going forward. But right now, the Fever get a little break, and we get a little break before Colts camp. Mark had a question earlier that I thought you might have a decent answer to. We're thinking about sports reunions. I mentioned like Bob Sanders. I haven't seen him around the Colts very often. I would love to see him be more prominent, be in the Ring of Honor. Is there, it doesn't have to be Colts related or Indianapolis related, but is there a sports reunion that you are kind of yearning for?
That's a really good question. I actually think it's a weird one to say because there was a lot that went into it, but I think there still could be, even though we've seen this now, I feel like there could be a healing that could take place if you brought back the entire Brawl roster to like halftime of a game. Because but again, did they deserve that? I mean, it was self-inflicted, right? It was self-inflicted. Yeah. But I think Jermaine has done a really good job of kind of explaining the player perspective of that. And I think based on that, it would heal a lot of things. And maybe that there does need to be healing left done. But I just think to have that entire group come out there, it would never happen, I realize, but for the reasons we're talking about. But that would be one for certain.
Yeah, people said more Jermaine O'Neal. They got the quick glimpse of him at the playoff run, but more like a Jermaine O'Neal appreciation night, so he gets his due finally.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I said Peyton Manning and the Colts because there seems to be some sort of a rift there with Peyton Manning where he's not
Well,
doing.
there's no question about
and
that.
so maybe that a little more front and center at a courtside at a Pacers game or a Fever game would be cool. But it just seems like he's kind of distanced himself from
I've always
Indianapolis.
said, Mark, the one thing about, and I understand why it happened. I know we're up against it. The one thing about Peyton Manning being released by the Colts, I understand why they had to do it, but it denied this city the opportunity to see his kid playing for Park Tudor, to see him courtside at Pacer games, and to see the Manning cast being done from Williams Creek.
Mhm. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other one was fans and Andrew Luck, but we've kind of said that probably ain't going to happen until there's a sturdy quarterback in
Way
place.
to throw that in my lap 2 minutes before I go on.
You get that quarter hour and you enjoy it.
That's right. James is going to join me today later. He doesn't know that yet, but he is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
I
busy.
know.
Who do you have on
And he
the
was
show
on.
today? Aside from James?
The better half of the duo that precedes me, that would be James, Mark.
Thank you.
I don't argue that.
Rick DeMolin going to join me also. I want to get the perspective just of like what goes into the mindset of a player going into camp and an offensive line. I think there's some questions with the Colts. I thought he could answer that since he played it.
All right, Jake's up next. Appreciate it. Kevin's back on Monday. Mark Dykes and James Boyd. Christian Oates signing off. It is the Fan Morning Show at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.